Hello everyone. If you like this audiobook and want to listen to more, please consider subscribing. And if you like this video, like it as well, enjoy.
Chapter 31. The Best Bro. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Megumi Fushiguro crouched beside the corpse of a grade 1 curse. The black and white divine dogs rubbed against his calves, emitting low whimpers. He reached out to pat their heads, then looked at his companions. That's the third one. Nobara Kugasaki patted the dust off her clothes. Including the one just now, we've exorcised 2 grade 1 curses and 3 grade 2 curses. According to the rules, we're in the lead. Yeah, Megumi stood up, but his expression was worried. At the same time, Panda emerged from the bushes on the other side. Strange. Where are the Kyoto school people? We've been fighting for so long and haven't encountered a single one. I contacted Maki just now. She said she hasn't encountered any on her side either. Megumi's frown deepened. The group had clearly noticed the commotion from the battle between Yuji and Naoya Zenin. The cursed energy from both sides had fluctuated in intensity, but because Yuji's cursed energy had been suppressed by Naoya for so long, everyone felt worried. Could the Kyoto school people be trying to find a way to kill Itadori? Megumi's face darkened. Think about it. The missions the higher UPS arranged for Itadori are unreasonable, encountering special grade curses twice in a row. And the reason for sending Naoya Zenin for this exchange event is strange too. For exchange and learning, but that guy's terrible personality is known to everyone. Panda paused. You mean, I understand, I can't say for sure, but I feel like the higher UPS are capable of doing such things. Maybe the Kyoto school people don't care about the exchange event at all. They targeted Itadori from the very beginning. Megumi analyzed calmly. If that were the case, Yuji would face a combined attack from 2 grade 1 sorcerers, 2 semi-grade 1 sorcerers, and several grade 2 sorcerers. Even if he was a monster who'd displayed terrifying talent right after his debut, could Yuji really win? Megumi felt his heartbeat quicken. Both rationally and emotionally, he didn't want anything to happen to Yuji Itadori. Even though that guy was annoying as hell, always teasing him alongside Satoru Gojo, playing games until the early hours of the morning, making it impossible to rest peacefully, but Megumi didn't hate him. The life of a Jujutsu sorcerer was truly too oppressive. The existence of a sunny, cheerful guy like Yuji added a different color to his otherwise plain and uneventful daily life. That's right, Megumi Fushiguro considered Yuji a friend. Megumi had few friends. He had an older sister named Sumiki Fushiguro. Since childhood, his father had abandoned him, his mother passed away early, and his stepmother left shortly after. With no one to raise Megumi, Sumiki had stayed by his side and taken care of him. During middle school, Megumi frequently fought delinquents outside school. His sister would come to stop him. When he didn't listen, she'd throw an open carton of milk at him and warn him of his mistakes. He'd thought his sister was just a hopelessly naive saint. But he quickly discovered that wasn't the case, just like Yuji. Itadori, when you pushed me away back then, was it really because you were 100% confident in defeating that special grade curse? Or did you just not want the people around you to get hurt? Megumi's principle in life was to save people unequally. He wouldn't save scumbags, only those he considered good people. The delinquent youths in the juvenile detention center were people Megumi viewed as completely unworthy of saving. One of them had even run over a poor girl while driving without a license. Megumi despised such people from the bottom of his heart. Whether they died or not made no difference to him, so he neither cared nor bothered to save them. However, at that time, Yuji had said to him, although the people trapped inside are probably not good people, might have done terrible things. But at least one of them has a mother who loves them just as much. At least I don't want to see such a gentle mother fall into the pain of losing her child. That would be too cruel. So we're doing this so that mother, and people like her, won't shed tears anymore. Not to save those scumbags, Fushiguro. At that moment, Megumi realized that Yuji Itadori wasn't just purely kind-hearted. He genuinely cared for people who had nothing to do with him. His compassion had moved Megumi. That was why he'd agreed back then, alright, we have to save everyone. Because those delinquent youths about to be killed by cursed spirits also had parents and families. Yuji was a guy who cared about everyone. Incredibly stupid, just like his sister. He didn't want anything to happen to a kind person like Yuji. There's really no other way. If someone dies, winning or losing the exchange event is meaningless. Panda agreed with Megumi's reasoning. Yeah, that's right, Nobara nodded. Let's go, to save Itadori. Achoo. Yuji sneezed violently. Strange, I feel like someone's cursing me. Could Fushiguro still be holding a grudge about me playing games and disturbing him yesterday? Yuji rubbed his nose, then raised his eyes to glance at the burly man standing over 1.9 meters tall before him. Aoi Todo, a best bro he'd gone through life and death with. In his past life, Aoi Todo and Yuji had beaten up Hanami together, fought Mahito, and even after his arm was severed by Mahito, he'd appeared to lend Yuji a hand when fighting Sukuna. However, due to his weird personality, Aoi Todo only had him as a friend. But this friend was truly loyal. Aoi Todo had always been bored. He was surrounded by boring guys with no interest in women, and their strength was weak, completely failing to catch his eye. The work of a Jujutsu sorcerer was already tiring. The only time he felt relaxed every day was when watching Little Takadachin's livestream. Sigh, if only I could have a friend, how great would that be? Aoi Todo's life was wrapped in an emotion called boredom. Only by fighting strong opponents and experiencing the thrill of combat could this boredom be slightly alleviated. This guy, having just fought Naoya Zenin, his stamina must be nearing its limit, right? Although fighting him at this time is a bit unfair, but he actually blocked my full-strength punch easily. He's got some skills. Aoi Todo was right. To find an opportunity for a own-hit kill, Yuji had been using the reverse curse technique, which he originally shouldn't have revealed. Even though Naoya's damage wasn't fatal, he'd taken over 100 punches. The operation of the reverse curse technique had consumed a massive amount of his cursed energy. Unless he continuously landed black flashes to recover his state, the current Yuji probably wouldn't be a match for Aoi Todo. But, why would Yuji treat Aoi Todo as an opponent? You're Todo, right? I have a question I want to ask you. A sly smile appeared on Yuji's face. Hearing the familiar sentence structure, Todo froze. Aoi Todo, what kind of woman is your type? Yuji's sonorous, forceful roar reached Aoi Todo's ears. In that instant, Aoi Todo's eyes widened to their maximum. His brain crashed. Nani? Yuji Itadori, why do you? No, that's impossible. This question shot toward him like a high-speed bullet, piercing his eardrums, piercing his skull, piercing his layers of mental defenses, and accurately hitting a previously untouched area deep within his brain. This sentence, he'd asked people. Yuta Okkotsu had answered, Norito Shikamo had answered, Mekamaru had answered, even Satoru Gojo had been asked. But those people's answers were either perfunctory, hypocritical, completely off-topic, or made him feel, this guy's taste in women is really boring. Not a single answer had made him feel, this person understands me. What people say online versus reality. Who wouldn't want a best friend with the same tastes in reality? But finding a soulmate is hard. Aoi Todo had felt he would probably never find a best friend with a compatible personality in his entire life. But, what's with this question? What's with this sense of presence? Yuji Itadori, you are my brother. Why do you understand me so well? It's almost like a person from the future. Could it be, my brother Yuji Itadori, did you travel back from the future to save the boring me of the present? Two streams of hot tears rolled down Aoi Todo's cheeks. My good brother, are you from the future? Huh. Yuji Itadori was shocked. Chapter 32, The Best Bro in the Exchange Event. Your eyes, your tone, the way you asked that question, they all make me feel like we've known each other for a long time. Tears streamed down Aoi Todo's face like a burst dam. Why is this happening? I, Aoi Todo, always thought I would never meet a qualified friend in my entire life. But what is with this existence before me? He took a deep breath, then roared, I like women with a big butt and a tall stature. Like Takadachin, what about you, Yuji Itadori? Hearing Aoi Todo's exaggerated answer, Yuji couldn't help but smile helplessly. Although saying this made him feel embarrassed, Yuji answered, if I had to say, I also like women with a big butt and a tall stature. Like Jennifer Lawrence. The answer Aoi Todo desired most was casually spoken by the pink-haired boy before him. In an instant, Aoi Todo's brain crashed, his eyes rolled back, his consciousness seemed to enter a white ocean. A non-existent memory appeared in his mind. Yuji Itadori and Aoi Todo were childhood friends who grew up playing together. They lived next door to each other and were in the same class from elementary school through middle school. Aoi Todo remembered that in middle school, there was a female student in the class next door with twin tails, captivating eyes, and an enchanting personality, named Takadachi. Itadori, I've decided, I'm going to confess to Takadachi. Ah, don't. I don't want to have to comfort you later. Why are you assuming I'll get rejected? Ignoring Yuji's advice, Aoi Todo finally confessed to Takadachi under a cherry blossom tree. Takadachi, I'm sorry, I already have someone I like. Romantic cherry blossom petals drifted in the air, but the words spoken by the person before him caused heart-wrenching pain. The person I like, doesn't like me. Bloop 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 bloop. While Aoi Todo was heartbroken, Yuji came to his side and patted his forehead. Let's go, I'll treat you to ramen. Okay, you said you didn't want to comfort me, but you ended up comforting me anyway. Itadori. Later, Aoi Todo and Yuji Itadori were discovered by Yuki Tsukumo and introduced to Jujutsu High. The two became shining stars in the Jujutsu world. Their duo was invincible. At the Kyoto Sister School Goodwill event, they fought a special grade curse with branches growing from its eyes. Later, during a mission, when his brother suffered a mental breakdown due to companions dying around him, Aoi Todo rushed to his aid immediately, pulling Yuji out of the abyss of despair, reminding him to pull himself together. Unfortunately, because the enemy they encountered on that mission was too powerful, Aoi Todo's arm was severed. He retired from then on. But later, when Sukuna within his brother's body went on a rampage, when all the Jujutsu sorcerers together couldn't defeat him, while Yuji was locked in bitter struggle, Aoi Todo resolutely stepped forward. He and his brother fought Sukuna as a duo. With everyone's concerted efforts, Sukuna was finally defeated, turning into a puddle of unidentified liquid and dissipating in the air. From then on, the Jujutsu world was peaceful. Until 68 years later, he still kept in constant touch with his brother. Aoi Todo's wild fantasy ended. He looked up at the cerulean blue sky. Tears and snot formed a river on his face, blurring his vision. Aoi Todo took a deep breath. Snot and tears slid down, dripping onto the dirt and fallen leaves. He didn't wipe them, didn't even realize he was crying. Aoi Todo was immersed in those profound memories, unable to extricate himself. Going to school together, skipping class together, fighting together, being punished to stand together, entering Jujutsu High together, becoming the strongest duo together, fighting those arrogant enemies together. It seems we two are best friends. The corners of Yuji's mouth curled up slightly. This guy, no matter how much time passes, he's always the same. Yeah, maybe we really are brothers separated for many years. Yuji nodded, not denying the statement. Aoi Todo raised his hand, haphazardly wiped his face, and spoke, in that case, I can't show any mercy to my brother. Come on, Yuji Itadori. I won't hand over the victory of the exchange event easily. Let me see your strength. All right, bring it on. Meanwhile, on the other side of the forest, the Kyoto school members were running rapidly through the trees. Norito Shikamo led the way, holding the broken half of the longbow Yuji had snapped. He'd picked it up during their retreat. Although it couldn't be used, Maizenin and the others did the same, weapons broken, but backup cursed tools drawn. Kasumi Miwa walked at the very back, holding the broken half of her sword. She kept her head down, not saying a word. The scene of Yuji snapping her blade replayed repeatedly in her mind. Even though they'd come to kill Yuji Itadori, Yuji had only broken their weapons. He's quite handsome. That Yuji Itadori is simply a monster. He's probably a sorcerer on the same level as Satoru Gojo. Mekamaru had just reattached his severed arm. Don't overthink it. Maizenin didn't look back. That guy isn't human. Losing to him isn't embarrassing. Let's hurry. The Tokyo school is in the lead. I don't want to lose to Maki. Wait, Norito Shikamo suddenly stopped. There's someone nearby. This cursed energy. While the group was on alert, no one noticed a black-haired, spiky-headed boy crouching on a thick branch of a nearby tree. Megumi Fushiguro formed a hand sign. Max Elephant. Megumi's innate technique, the 10 Shadows technique, allowed him to summon 10 different types of Shikigami from shadows. Not just the shadow behind him, even the shadows cast by branches and leaves on the ground could be utilized. A large puddle of pitch-black liquid flowed out from the overlapping shadows on the ground. The liquid rapidly formed into the shape of an Asian elephant. Max Elephant raised its trunk high, aiming at the Kyoto school members. Scatter. Quickly. Whoosh. A torrential current formed from cursed energy spewed from Max Elephant's trunk, carrying enough impact to wash away a wall, sweeping toward the Kyoto school members. Before they could retreat in time, the torrent scattered their formation. However, as physically strong sorcerers, they all quickly found cover and footholds. Max Elephant's attack didn't cause much damage. Only Kasumi Miwa was swept up like a fallen leaf, helplessly carried along by the river to a nearby cliff's edge, and then over. Miwa, although it only dealt with the non-threatening Kasumi Miwa, Megumi's goal was to disrupt their formation so they couldn't support each other. Separate them. Megumi leapt down from the branch, and then take them down one by one. Panda rushed out from the nearby bushes, throwing a punch straight at Mekamaru, who was trying to raise his hand to fire his cannon, sending him flying. Bang! Your opponent is me. Nobara and Maki also appeared. The former pulled nails from her waist pouch and threw them at Momo Nishimiya scouting in the air, while the latter swung her wooden katana at her sister. Clang! Mai raised her cursed tool dagger to block. Sparks flew from the friction between the blades. Maki, you guys were actually ambushing us here. You should call me big sister, little sister. As the two clashed, Megumi sprinted toward Norito Shikamo. The black-haired boy pulled a pitch-black cursed tool katana from behind him. Crack! Norito Shikamo blocked horizontally with his bow. The blade struck the bow, and the two entered a test of strength. Kamo-senpai, long time no see. You guys weren't trying to kill Itadori, were you? Norito Shikamo froze. What if we were? Although the other party confirmed it, seeing the broken weapon in his hand and knowing Yuji wasn't nearby, Megumi deduced that Yuji hadn't been harmed. Since that was the case, he would do his part for Yuji, deal with Norito Shikamo first, then go back to provide support. It seems you failed. At the bottom of the cliff, Kasumi Miwa climbed out of the water, soaked to the bone, holding the broken half of her sword. She coughed twice, spitting out a few mouthfuls of river water, then looked up, staring blankly at her surroundings. Fortunately, the cliff wasn't high. She wasn't injured. Cough cough. Where is this? An open riverbank. Crystal clear water. The bank covered in cobblestones. Steep cliffs on both sides. Sunlight shone down from above, sparkling on the water's surface. It hurts. She quickly checked herself over and found that her phone had gotten wet, completely cutting off contact with her companions. Her weapon had also been broken by Yuji. She didn't know what to do next. I'm doomed now, she muttered. Not only did I fail to defeat Yuji Itadori, but I also got lost. I'll definitely be scolded to death when I get back. Are you okay? An unfamiliar voice called out. Kasumi quickly turned and saw a black-haired boy with hair covering half his face standing by the riverbed. You're a Tokyo school student. Kasumi subconsciously gripped the broken sword tightly. Ah, yes. Junpei Yoshino scratched his head. My name is Junpei Yoshino. First year. Did you fall from up there? Are you okay? Because Junpei originally wasn't part of everyone's plan, he'd been naturally exiled. After all, he wasn't strong yet, so no one wanted him doing the dirty and tiring work. He'd had no choice but to wander aimlessly in the forest, and ended up running into Kasumi Miwa. Kasumi paused. Wait, no, aren't we enemies? Jago crouched on the eaves of a towering building at Jujutsu High, looking down at the scene below. It looks lively here. Jujutsu sorcerers everywhere, as numerous as maggots. Behind it stood the special grade curse over 2 meters tall. Eye sockets replaced by 2 branches. Body covered in pitch-black patterns. A giant red flower bud growing on its left shoulder. Hanami. As well as 2 grade 1 curse users sent by Kenjaku. Well then, let's get started too. Chapter 33. A game of cards and the encounter at the riverbank. One day ago, Kenjaku's hideout, inside a dimly lit Japanese-style room. The sliding paper door was half open, letting twilight seep in from outside. A low tea table sat in the center of the room, scattered with a dozen playing cards. 3 cups of tea placed aside had gone cold. Kenjaku, wearing a kasaya, sat cross-legged in the middle. Jago and Hanami sat on either side of him. A single 3. Kenjaku pulled the 3 of clubs from his hand and placed it on the table. King. Hanami hesitated for a moment before playing a card. 2. The impatient Jago had no intention of playing mind games. It pulled out the 2 of diamonds and slapped it onto the table. Little joker. Kenjaku unhurriedly pulled out a card with an upside-down black joker on it and placed it down. "TCH, you bastard." Jago was annoyed. Kenjaku looked up at Jago's face, veins popping from losing 5 consecutive games, and the curve of his mouth widened. "Anxious? None of your business if I'm anxious or not." Jago's voice was hoarse and irritable. "Play your card." Kenjaku tilted his teacup to his lips and took a sip of cold tea. "I came to you this time to talk about serious business." He continued. "The abilities Yuji Itadori has displayed far exceed my expectations, even though I don't know how many times I've said this." "What exactly are you trying to say?" Jago asked impatiently. "I mean," Kenjaku shrugged, "there's something I need to remind you about." Jago and Hanami both turned to look at him. Because Yuji Itadori and Ryomen Sukuna share the same physical body, Yuji Itadori is currently like a vessel steeped in Sukuna's fingers. As time passes, it's highly likely that Sukuna's shrine will be etched into his brain. I only know there's such a probability, but I'm not sure exactly how much time it will take. The room fell quiet. The evening sun seeped in through the door. Based on Yuji Itadori's performance right after incarnation, Kenjaku continued, he was able to use dismantle the moment he swallowed Sukuna's finger. Although that was borrowing Sukuna's cursed energy, we can't rule out the possibility that he's already mastered shrine, but hasn't realized it yet. He raised his hand, holding up one finger. Currently, there are 2 possibilities. First, he can use Sukuna's innate technique independently, without relying on Sukuna. He held up a second finger. Second, he can only use it by relying on Sukuna's cursed energy. But even so, as long as Sukuna's fingers are in his body, he could master shrine at any moment. He lowered his hand, picked up his teacup, and took another sip of cold tea. Regardless of which one it is, it proves one thing: in the coming time, perhaps even during the exchange event, it's highly likely that Yuji Itadori will display 2 different innate techniques. His original innate technique, blood manipulation, and Sukuna's shrine. If that's really the case, his threat level will rise to another tier. Bang! Jago slapped the table, impatient. "Your nagging is annoying. Are you going to play a card or not? Don't be so anxious. 3 of a kind with a single." Kenjaku picked out 4 cards and placed them on the table. Hanami shook its head. "Pass." Jago directly slapped 4 9s onto the table. Bomb. Jago, you're really impatient. Playing cards requires strategy. You can't just play whatever you have. You'll suffer for it. Kenjaku shook his head. However, the one he was most worried about wasn't Jago, but Hanami. After all, Jago was very strong. "Hanami, if you encounter Yuji Itadori and other grade 1 sorcerers at the exchange event, focus on stalling. Don't fight them head-on," Kenjaku reminded. "Otherwise, you might die there." Hearing this, Hanami nodded. "I understand." Satoru Gojo is the big joker. Kenjaku leaned on the tea table, resting his cheek on his hand, tilting his head to look at the grinning joker on the table. He'd originally thought the little joker would be Yuta Okkotsu. That Yuji Itadori would at best be a king, maybe even less. I really didn't expect this. But looking at it now, Yuji Itadori had taken Yuta Okkotsu's place and become this little joker. In the future, Yuji Itadori is highly likely to become a trump card for Jujutsu High, and even the Jujutsu world. He might even grow into a special grade Jujutsu sorcerer in a short time. However, Kenjaku closed his eyes, then smiled. Although things have become much more troublesome, on second thought, this is also quite interesting. My son has the makings of a great emperor. On the riverbank, the sunlight was perfect. The water sparkled. Junpei Yoshino looked at the blue-haired girl in front of him, soaked to the bone, holding a broken sword, seaweed hanging from her hair. He remained silent for 2 seconds. He'd only been enrolled for a day. After all, he was just an ordinary high school student. He didn't know how to fight. "Are you okay?" Junpei wanted to step forward, but Kasumi Miwa frantically stopped him. Wait, we're enemies, right?" Kasumi waved her hands hastily. "I won't let you get close. I'm going to defeat you." But you seem to be injured. And your sword is broken." None of your business. A broken sword can still cut people, okay? Don't underestimate me." "I'm not underestimating you. Cut the crap, take this." Kasumi raised her broken sword and charged at Junpei. She was a trained Jujutsu sorcerer, after all. Her charging pace was faster than a national-level sprinter. Wait, Junpei was startled and quickly tried to summon his Shikigami for defense. But it seemed the cobblestones on the riverbank were slippery. Kasumi had barely taken 2 steps when her foot slipped and her body lurched forward. Splash, she fell face-first into the riverbed. The broken sword traced an arc in the air and finally stuck into the sand beside Junpei. Are you okay? Junpei's sweat dropped. Meanwhile, on the other side, Ora. Muda. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of fists colliding exploded like rapid-fire cannons. Every clash was accompanied by an invisible shockwave, shaking the surrounding trees so violently they leaned from side to side. Yuji and Aoi Todo's punching speed was so fast only afterimages remained. Every collision between their fists was accompanied by a thunderous boom, making the ground tremble with each impact. Not bad, even in a weakened state, you can fight to this level. As expected of my best friend. You're not bad either, Todo. Assuming modern firearms could touch curses, a standard special grade curse would require at least carpet bombing with cluster munitions to deal with. When 2 grade 1 sorcerers with the strength to defeat special grade curses fought, wherever their clash passed, not a blade of grass would grow. This formed a sharp contrast with the history's strongest grade 4 sorcerer versus modern strongest grade 3 sorcerer duel at the bottom of a certain cliff. Chapter 34. The potential of the Shikigami and the infiltration. Early morning, Jujutsu High Training Ground. The sun had just peeked out from behind the ridge line. Junpei Yoshino sat cross-legged on the smooth wooden floor, listening to the 2 in front of him talk animatedly. Satoru Gojo wore a loose black t-shirt, sunglasses pushed up on his head, hands in his pockets. Yoshino-kun, your Shikigami seems to have the ability to freely control its size within a certain limit, just like real jellyfish species. The smallest shouldn't be smaller than a fingernail. As for the largest, it should be able to reach the size of a lion's mane jellyfish. The lion's mane jellyfish, one of the largest jellyfish species in the world. The tentacles trailing behind it could reach over 30 meters, equivalent to the length of a blue whale. However, creating a Shikigami of that size would consume a massive amount of cursed energy. Junpei probably couldn't manage that right now. Besides that, the tail end of the jellyfish can extend spiked tentacles to attack enemies. The spikes contain a neurotoxin that can paralyze people. It's quite a good ability. Yuji, what do you think? Satoru Gojo looked at the pink-haired boy beside him. Yuji nodded. That's right, for an average Shikigami, having 2 out of 3 abilities is already good. Yours can freely change size, has extendable tentacles for mid to close range attacks, and possesses crowd control abilities. You might even become a grade 1 sorcerer in the future, Junpei. Junpei froze, eyes widening. A grade 1. Yeah, Yuji walked up and patted his shoulder. Take your time, there's no rush. Satoru Gojo, uncharacteristically serious, added, Yuji's right. Your innate technique has a lot of potential. Don't waste it. I will work hard, Junpei said excitedly. Haha, then do your best, kid. Satoru Gojo gave him a thumbs up. The memory ended. Junpei looked at the blue-haired girl slowly getting up from the riverbank. Ripples stirred in his heart. The Kyoto school people might be trying to kill Itadori. He recalled what Megumi Fushiguro had said on the phone. Junpei's fingers tightened. The girl in front of him, although she looked harmless, her broken sword indicated she must have been part of the plan to attack Yuji. Junpei took a deep breath. Sorry, although you look like you're not a bad person, what if you're pretending? What if you pose a threat to my companions after you go back? I just need to use moon dregs, toxin to paralyze her here. Junpei thought to himself. Come out, moon dregs. Question mark. Kasumi Miwa looked up, only to see a massive, light blue jellyfish, a full head taller than Junpei, appear behind the boy. Shikigami. She clutched her head and stood up, instinctively stepping back. So big. Where's my sword? Kasumi looked down and found her hands empty. She quickly scanned the area and realized her sword had been thrown from her hand when she fell, and landed right next to Junpei's feet. Help! A loud boom echoed from deep within the forest. Boom! Yuji's fist, wrapped in pitch-black electrical arcs, smashed fiercely against Aoi Todo's crossed defensive arms. Unable to withstand the impact, Aoi Todo flew backward, only stopping after snapping several thick tree trunks. Nice punch. Aoi Todo landed from the air, stabilized his posture, and plowed 2 deep grooves in the ground with his feet. That was the 6th black flash, right? As expected of my best friend, to have such formidable strength after only 5 days of enrollment. My passion is simply burning up. Aoi Todo kicked off the ground with his right foot, his body shooting toward Yuji like an arrow loosed from a bow. Todo, your best friend has landed multiple consecutive black flashes right in front of you. How can you remain stagnant? Your best friend clearly has such formidable talent. How can you let him leave you behind? Are you going to drag your brother down? Aoi Todo dove right in front of Yuji in an instant. He planted his left foot, raised his right leg, and kicked fiercely at Yuji, his cursed energy shifting from cyan to pitch black. Black flash, bang. Yuji raised his arm to block but was sent flying by the immense force. Just like Aoi Todo earlier, he only slowly got up amidst the dust after smashing through several trees. The dust cleared. Yuji stood. He shook his numb arm and smiled approvingly at Aoi Todo. Nice kick. Again. Aoi Todo charged forward, clashing with Yuji once more. The two seemed to be fighting, but in reality, they were deepening their bond through something akin to a spar. The reason Yuji was willing to continue fighting Aoi Todo was because unleashing a black flash put the sorcerer into the zone, a state of fully realizing their potential. In this state, the sorcerer would feel cursed energy throughout their body flowing as naturally as breathing. During the battle with Naoya Zenin earlier, Yuji had consumed most of his cursed energy from overusing the reverse curse technique. Now, Yuji and Aoi Todo seemed to be fighting, but Yuji actually wanted to use this opportunity to land multiple consecutive black flashes. By entering the zone, he could accelerate his cursed energy recovery and quickly regain his peak condition. Because he knew that simply defeating Naoya Zenin wasn't the end. In his past life's Kyoto Sister School Goodwill event, a cursed spirit named Hanami and several curse users had invaded Jujutsu High, exploiting the gaps in the event's defenses. Although he hadn't sensed the opponent's arrival yet, Yuji chose to prepare for a rainy day. Furthermore, he didn't dislike the feeling of sparring with Aoi Todo. Come on, my best friend. On the other side, a strong beat of music played. Unlike the intense battlefield on Yuji's side, and the battlefield where Megumi and the others faced off against the Kyoto school, each performing their respective roles. The two people here were playing a game called, Run, Kasumi Miwa, Run. Wah, don't run, splash. Ripples spread across the riverbank as water splashed into the air. Kasumi Miwa ran toward the end of the riverbank without looking back, nearly tripping several times on the cobblestones. Junpei chased after her. Moon dregs floated above his head, its elongated tentacles lashing out like whips, aiming straight for Kasumi Miwa's head. Sensing the sound of something tearing through the air behind her, Kasumi quickly turned. The tentacle brushed past her school uniform and stabbed into the cobblestones. Bang! The stones shattered into pieces. Flying debris hit Kasumi's calves, making her grimace. Are you serious? Are you kidding me? Kasumi wanted to cry but had no tears. She was injured. She had no weapon. I was serious from the start. I can't let you go back and help your other companions. The two ran frantically along the riverbank, one after the other, splashing water everywhere. I won't. I'm useless. I can't help everyone at all. I don't believe you. Even if there's only a 1 in 10,000 chance, I can't let you escape. Whoosh! A tentacle brushed past Kasumi's foot, exploding a splash of water in the river. Gah! Whoosh! Another tentacle brushed past her waist, tearing a slit in her uniform. No, don't hit there. This uniform is expensive, okay. Kasumi had no choice but to keep running frantically, trying to escape the black-haired boy behind her. Unlucky, 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 unlucky. You guys are fighting pretty hard. Unbeknownst to the students, and the teachers watching the event, including Satoru Gojo, Jujutsu High's barrier had been infiltrated. A dark-skinned, bald curse user wearing a black apron stood at the very edge of the exchange event area, sensing the dense cursed energy coming from nearby. He held an axe and a nail wrapped in special bandages. He drove the nail into the ground. This nail was the foundation. Unlike a normal curtain, an entrusted curtain's effect mainly came from a binding vow. By adding a foundation, like this nail, inside the curtain as a binding vow, the defensive capabilities were greatly enhanced. If the foundation was destroyed, the curtain would immediately disappear. But if the foundation remained, the curtain gained extremely high stability, making it much harder to break from outside. At the same time, Hanami raised its hand not far away and began the incantation. Emerge from darkness, darker than darkness. Purify that which is impure. A pitch-black, viscous liquid appeared in the air above the center of the exchange event grounds. This liquid gradually enveloped the entire area in a hemispherical shape. Besides the binding vow related to the foundation, Hanami added an extra condition to the curtain. Anyone could freely enter and exit, except for Satoru Gojo. With the enhancement of the two binding vows, this curtain possessed extremely strong defensive capabilities. Kenjaku had previously told it that this curtain could stall Satoru Gojo outside the barrier for at least half an hour. Half an hour was enough. Next to appear were the special grade curse Jago, the special grade curse Hanami, and Kenjaku's forces, 2 grade 1 curse users, 3 semi-grade 1 curse users, and 5 grade 2 curse users. Chapter 35, The Invasion and the Comedic Duo. Special cameras were set up throughout the forest to monitor the students' movements during the exchange event. Ha 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 ha, did you see that? Did you see that? In the viewing room, the giant display screen was divided into over a dozen windows, broadcasting real-time footage from various areas. Satoru Gojo sat on the front row sofa with his legs crossed, holding a glass of sparkling water he'd gotten from who knows where. My student isn't bad, right? A mere young master of the Zenin clan, piece of cake. Damn, piece of cake, is that what Yuji, an ordinary sports student, would say? Sitting next to him, the principal of the Kyoto school, Yoshinobu Gakuganji, leaned on his cane expressionlessly. Satoru Gojo's smug voice reached his ears, making his face darken. A crack inexplicably appeared on his cane where he gripped it. Thanks to the Kyoto school sending so many students to gang up on Yuji, it gave me a clearer understanding of his talent and strength. Satoru Gojo crossed his legs and spread his hands. Not just Yuji, the Junpei Yoshino he brought along is quite talented too. Being able to utilize his Shikigami's functions in just one day. The future is promising. However, with things turning out this way, I think some people representing the higher UPS of the Kyoto school are going to lose face. Satoru Gojo had long known about the higher-ups' intentions toward Yuji, so he deliberately spoke in a sarcastic tone. Gojo. Gakuganji finally spoke, his voice hoarse and deep. The exchange event is not over yet. Not over, I wouldn't be so sure. Although your Todo is still around, Naoya Zenin is down. Norito Shikamo is tied up by Megumi Fushiguro. Mekamaru is getting pinned to the ground and beaten by Panda. Momo Nishimiya is being chased all over the forest by Kugasaki. My Zenin has no weapon and probably can't beat Maki. As for the last one, Kasumi Miwa. Satoru Gojo paused, then used a polite phrase. She's quite good at parkour. Hearing Satoru Gojo's mockery, the Kyoto school teacher beside him, Utahime Iori, finally couldn't hold back. Gojo, that's enough from you. Alright, I won't say any more. While the few of them were talking animatedly, Satoru Gojo suddenly paused mid-sentence. The smile on his face vanished. This aura, everyone, did you sense it? Unfamiliar cursed energy. Someone invaded the barrier. Utahime reacted. The teachers quickly rushed out of the viewing room, but just as they arrived near the exchange event grounds, the curtain completely enclosed the area. Satoru Gojo arrived at the barrier and reached out to touch the pitch-black surface. Boom! He was bounced back as if electrocuted. Satoru Gojo turned his head and found that the other teachers could enter and exit freely. Except for him. This curtain, I see, it only restricts my entry and exit, using that as a binding vow to greatly increase the barrier's precision. Someone deliberately planned this for the exchange event. Principal Gakuganji, Utahime, you two go ahead and protect the students. Of course I know that. I don't need you to remind me. Utahime and Gakuganji entered the barrier one after the other, intending to support the students. However, the moment they stepped into the curtain, they found 5 grade 2 curse users waiting for them. Back to Aoi Todo and Yuji Itadori. Wait, Todo, did you sense it? Yuji called out to stop Aoi Todo, who was about to rush forward for another round of hand-to-hand combat, then looked up at the sky. The sunlight shifted from normal golden yellow to a deep orangered, as if someone had poured a whole bucket of maple syrup across the sky, soaking the entire forest in dusk. The effect of the curtain. Aoi Todo clearly noticed it too. The smile on his face slowly disappeared. It seems the exchange event is going to end early. Yuji had anticipated this. He cracked his wrists, then spoke up. No, the real battle is just beginning. Aoi Todo shook his head. Unfamiliar cursed energy, someone's coming. As soon as he finished speaking, two figures walked out from the shadows of the forest. Oh my, have we been discovered? It's quite lively here. One was the curse user who had just set up the curtain at the edge of the event grounds, a dark-skinned, bald, burly man wearing a black naked apron and holding two axes. Grade 1 curse user, cursed tool maker, Juzo Kumiya. The other had a Chanmage hairstyle, thick eyebrows, a handlebar mustache, wore a white t-shirt and black shorts with a black haramaki around his waist. No shoes, only white socks. Grade 1 curse user, bounty hunter, Jiro Awasaka, Sukuna's vessel, huh? Juzo Kumiya stepped forward, aiming the axe in his hand at Yuji. It seems you'll make a fine coat rack. He narrowed his eyes, revealing a sinister smile. Yuji looked at the two people who'd appeared out of nowhere. He remained silent for 2 seconds, then turned to look at Aoi Todo, his expression a bit strange. Todo, is that guy not wearing underwear? Quote. Hearing this, Todo immediately looked at Juzo Kumiya's lower half. The guy was only wearing shoes and an apron. His butt seemed to be bare. As if he really wasn't wearing any. Are curse users this open nowadays? His taste is so weird. No, not weird, perverted. Yuji complained. Thunderous fashion sense. Even for an evil curse user, a naked apron was a bit too open. This guy was as tall and flamboyant looking as Satoru Gojo, which made Yuji feel uncomfortable. Hey. Veins popped on Juzo Kumiya's forehead. Jiro Awasaka stood in place, his sinister, sharp eyes sizing up Todo and Yuji like a vulture hunting prey. He'd originally wanted to wait for an opening before attacking, but instead of an opening, he got a sentence that made his blood pressure soar. Why is that guy not wearing shoes? Yuji leaned close to Aoi Todo's ear and whispered. Is it really okay to just wear socks? Doesn't it hurt stepping on the ground? Aoi Todo fell into deep thought. Look at his sock, there seems to be a hole in the left toe. Seriously, wow, it's true. Hey, you two. Jiro Awasaka's face darkened. White socks, a seasoned athlete, is this kind of outfit popular nowadays? Yuji rested his hand on his chin, showing a thoughtful expression. It's not popular, Aoi Todo said decisively, and an athlete wouldn't go without shoes, right? True, I'm just an ordinary sports student too, but I feel like I'm much better than white socks and a haramaki. Yuji nodded to himself. You're much better than him. Todo replied. The two echoed each other as if performing a manzai comedy routine. Jiro Awasaka's face turned from black to green, from green to purple, from purple to white, and finally back to black. Are you two done yet? Jiro Awasaka scolded them in exasperation. They were curse users who'd come to take their lives. How could these two be doing stand-up comedy with straight faces? Weren't they afraid of a sneak attack? What's with this relaxed attitude? Not yet. I have a question. Yuji scratched his cheek. Question mark. Is your Chanmage real or a wig? A Chanmage, simply put, a balding samurai hairstyle. In ancient Japan, samurai would shave the front middle part of their hair for combat convenience. But that kind of thing had long been obsolete. Although it looks real, why would he keep a Chanmage? It's the Heisei era now. The Edo period ended hundreds of years ago. Yuji was puzzled. He's seasoned. Aoi Todo nodded seriously. Maybe it's also a kind of athletic seasoning. Seasoned. A seasoned sense of history. Then why not wear straw sandals? Not seasoned enough. If he were seasoned enough, his socks wouldn't have holes. You two bastards. While Jiro Awasaka cursed angrily, Juzo Kumiya beside him raised his axes and charged at Yuji and Aoi Todo. Your nagging is annoying. Watch me capture you two, take you back to base, and turn you into coat racks. Then I'll peel your lips off. Let's see how glib you are then. Die. The two sharp axes in Juzo Kumiya's hands were infused with cursed energy, whistling sharply as they slashed down toward Aoi Todo's skull. However, Aoi Todo merely raised his hands unhurriedly, and then clap. The moment he clapped, Juzo Kumiya's axes fell, slightly sinking into flesh. But when he looked closely, the one attacked wasn't Aoi Todo, but Jiro Awasaka, who had stayed in his original spot. Aoi Todo's innate technique, boogie woogie, could forcibly swap the positions of any targets with cursed energy nearby through a clap. Both curse users were startled. Aoi Todo's voice came from not far away. I'm counting on you, brother. The moment his words fell, the two curse users reacted. They both turned simultaneously, trying to make a defensive move, but Yuji's fists were already right in front of them. Black flash, pitch-black lightning exploded. Yuji had completed gathering cursed energy into his fists before Todo swapped their positions. The two were left completely unable to react. Bang! The fist landed solidly on Juzo Kumiya's face, sending him flying. You bastard! Seeing this, Jiro Awasaka pulled out a small knife, wanting to counterattack, but at that moment. Clap! Aoi Todo clapped again, swapping himself with Yuji. At the same time, he'd already gathered cursed energy into his right leg. Although Yuji and Aoi Todo were meeting for the first time, their coordination was remarkably seamless. Before Jiro Awasaka could stab him, Aoi Todo's attack connected with the opponent's lower abdomen. Bang! Jiro Awasaka's torso arched. He flew into the distance just like Juzo Kumiya. Boom! The impact caused trees to collapse and kicked up a cloud of dust. Aoi Todo turned his head and caught sight of Yuji giving him a thumbs up not far away. Beautifully done, Todo. However, Yuji quickly changed the subject. You noticed, right, there are more than just these two intruders. Yeah, I know, Todo replied. Then let's finish this quickly. Alright, let's take them down in one breath. Aoi Todo clasped his hands together, knuckles cracking from the friction. Chapter 36. The Seasoned Curse Users and Hanami's Arrival. The dust slowly settled. Juzo Kumiya climbed up from the ground, his apron covered in wood chips and dirt. Tui. He spat out a mouthful of bloody froth mixed with a tooth and raised his hand to wipe his lips. This brat can land a black flash so easily. Are you kidding me? That bastard Geto didn't tell me this at all. TCH, my tooth. I still have to go find Satoru Gojo later. You two brats, don't waste my time. Find Gojo-sensei. Yuji was puzzled. That's right, I'm going to turn Satoru Gojo into a coat rack. With his height, he'll surely make a fine one. A wicked smile appeared on Juzo Kumiya's face. You've angered me, brat. After I capture you, I've decided to torture you thoroughly before reuniting you with your teacher. Juzo Kumiya was a complete pervert. He would bring men with large builds and strong skeletons to his home, skin them, extract and clean their bones, and then turn them into coat racks. Even to Yuji Itadori, who never killed humans, this guy was an unforgivable existence. For some reason, the curse user forces Kenjaku sent to this exchange event were stronger than in his past life. If nothing unexpected happened, Megumi Fushiguro, Maki Zenin, and the others should have encountered Hanami by now. Yuji had to hurry over to support them. Therefore, this time, even against two humans, he wouldn't hold back or show any mercy. Yuji and Aoi Todo turned sideways together, both taking a half step back, bending their knees, assuming fighting stances. Meanwhile, Jiro Awasaka also stood up from another pile of rubble. He patted the dust off his body, but to Yuji and Aoi Todo's surprise, besides some dust. Unharmed, Aoi Todo was shocked. Impossible. I kicked him with full force just now. I'm a bounty hunter. Jiro Awasaka snorted coldly. If I didn't have some skills, I would have died 800 times over. Not just Aoi Todo, Yuji was also surprised. However, considering he was a grade 1 curse user, having such an ability was normal. It's probably the effect of his innate technique. Likely something that grants immunity to physical attacks. Yuji was experienced enough now to guess the guy's technique type in a single encounter. I feel like I've seen this guy somewhere before. Jiro Awasaka looked up, eyes sinister and sharp like a provoked vulture. I'm going to kill you. Oh, he seems angry. Yuji said. Obviously. Probably because you mocked the hole in his sock. Aoi Todo smiled and nodded. But seriously, a haramaki with white socks looks a bit like a sumo wrestler. Not really. Sumo wrestlers wear a mawashi, not a haramaki. And they don't wear white socks. Then he's not seasoned enough. Yuji shook his head. Unlike him, who'd been seasoned for 68 years and could now elbow Mahito and subdue Sukuna. Seasoned my ass. Under the relentless verbal barrage, Jiro Awasaka finally snapped. Damn it, are you two bastards ignoring my existence? Sumo wrestler, I have a samurai topknot. You two ignorant brats. He grabbed his cursed tool knife and charged at them in a rage. I'll cut your mouths off. Jiro Awasaka sprinted right in front of Aoi Todo. Because he was somewhat immune to physical attacks, his fighting style was extremely reckless. Perhaps he didn't know that Aoi Todo's clapping swap had absolutely no cooldown, it only required completing the action of clapping. Just as Jiro Awasaka arrived, Aoi Todo raised his hands. Clap, he swapped the positions of Jiro Awasaka and Juzo Kumiya. Jiro Awasaka, swapped away, lost his balance and fell flat on his face. The clapping swap was so fast that Juzo Kumiya didn't even have time to react before Yuji's fists were covered in a layer of blood armor, cyan cursed energy burning like flames. Juzo Kumiya's eyes widened in astonishment. No way, me again. Black flash, bang, Yuji smashed his fist into Juzo Kumiya's abdomen. The latter's face instantly twisted in pain, his torso arching like a shrimp. A large mouthful of blood spewed from his mouth. Blergh. Not done yet. Bang! Aoi Todo landed a hook on Juzo Kumiya's jaw, sending his head snapping to the side. Yuji followed up again. He grabbed Juzo Kumiya's shoulder, pulled his head down toward his raised knee, and delivered a vicious knee strike. Black flash, bang! Juzo Kumiya saw stars, eyes rolling back. The moment Yuji let go, his body fell backward uncontrollably. But before he could fall as he wished, Todo kicked him in the back of the head. Bang! Juzo Kumiya's world spun from the kick. Before he could recover, Yuji's black flash arrived. Black flash, bang! The two attacked from left and right, alternating punches and kicks. Juzo Kumiya's body bounced back and forth between Yuji and Todo like a ping-pong ball being smashed by two champions. Black flash, bang! You want to make coat racks? Black flash, bang! You want to fight Satoru Gojo? Black flash, black flash, black flash. You're a soldier brought by Kenjaku. Damn, enemy, hit him, bang 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 bang. Under the double teaming, Juzo Kumiya completely lost consciousness. Yuji raised his fist, landing the final blow on his chest. Bang, an invisible shockwave exploded in the air, sending surrounding rubble flying into the sky. Juzo Kumiya flew backward like a ragdoll, smashing through several tree trunks and rocks before collapsing unconscious beside a tree. Unable to fight anymore, so weak, is this guy really a grade 1 curse user? He feels far inferior to Naoya Zenin, maybe on the same level as Fushiguro. Yuji casually dusted off his hands. Todo gave a thumbs up and wiped blood off his face. I think you're overestimating that Fushiguro kid a bit. Todo had also met Megumi Fushiguro earlier. He felt that the so-called genius who'd enrolled as a grade 2 sorcerer was nothing special. Not as good as his grade 1 sorcerer brother who'd only been enrolled for 5 days. Fushiguro is strong too, he just needs time to get seasoned. After Yuji finished speaking, the two looked at Jiro Awasaka. Your turn. They spoke in unison. Even though their tone was flat, it gave off the feeling of being targeted by demons. Quote. Two perverts. Cold sweat slid down Jiro Awasaka's forehead and dripped from his chin. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. Damn it, what exactly is the origin of this gorilla's technique? And that Juzo Kumiya, isn't he a grade 1 curse user? Going down so easily. At this moment, only one thought remained in Jiro Awasaka's mind. Shish, can we make peace? On the other side of the forest. Damn it, why would a special grade curse suddenly appear here? 3 figures were running frantically through the forest. Megumi Fushiguro ran in the middle, Maki Zenin in front, and Norito Shikamo, who had just been fighting Megumi moments ago, brought up the rear. As for why the 3 had suddenly stopped fighting, it all stemmed from the completely pale special grade curse, Hanami, closely tailing them. A curse born from humanity's fear of forests. Hanami silently raised its right hand, gently tracing a line in the air with its fingertip. A thick tree root burst from the ground, whipping toward the 3 like a giant python. Dodge. The 3 clumsily evaded the whipping attacks. Megumi stumbled, then continued running desperately forward. Clearly, the 3 were also playing, run, Kasumi Miwa, run. Turn left. At an upcoming corner, Norito Shikamo directed the other 2 to hide in the bushes on the left. This won't work if we keep going like this. Norito Shikamo panted, voice hoarse. It's faster than us. We'll be caught sooner or later. I'll try to use piercing blood to stop it. You guys go first. Norito Shikamo stopped abruptly, his left foot carving a long mark in the ground as he braked. He turned around, clapping his hands together. Convergence. Piercing blood. Scarlet blood gathered into an orb in his hands, then condensed into a slender blood arrow. The blood arrow tore through the air, flying straight for Hanami's head. Bang, crack, but the move seemed ineffective. Unlike Yuji's piercing blood, Noritoshi Kamo's only managed to leave a small gash on Hanami's face. Damn it, Noritoshi Kamo wanted to turn and run again, but at that moment, he felt a tightening sensation around his ankle. He looked down. A tree branch as thick as an arm had emerged from the ground at some point, wrapping around his calf like a snake. Kamo-senpai! Megumi's shout came from nearby. When Noritoshi Kamo looked up again, a shadow loomed over his head. The 2-meter tall, completely pale humanoid special grade curse arrived in front of him. A fist larger than his head came crashing down. Bang! The tree root on Noritoshi Kamo's ankle snapped from the impact. He was sent flying by Hanami's swinging punch, eventually crashing into the distant bushes and falling unconscious. Hey, Kamo-senpai! Seeing this, Megumi and Maki quickly stopped. Both their faces were covered in cold sweat. Damn it, even though I don't like that guy either, we can't just leave him and run. Maki gripped her cursed tool katana tightly, expression solemn. If we keep running like this, we'll be caught sooner or later. We might as well risk it. Megumi gritted his teeth. No, the gap in strength is too big. This thing is a special grade curse. But if this continues, not just Kamo-senpai, Meika-senpai will die too. Is the pressure on me? The spiky-haired boy hesitated, forming the hand sign symbolizing Mahorga's subjugation ritual. At least if I do this, I'll be the only one to die. Megumi fell into hesitation. Itadori must be having a hard time protecting himself over there. I can't count on him. I originally wanted to go help him, but now I can't even protect myself. Damn it, Gojo-sensei's presence is gone too, he might be trapped outside the curtain. We've been running for so long. There shouldn't be any other students nearby who can help. In other words, my only choice now is to exorcise this special grade curse. Should I do it? Here, damn it. Chapter 37. The Principles of Jujutsu and the Stolen Objects. On the frontline battlefield with Yuji Itadori and Aoi Todo. Convergence. Whoosh. Yuji clapped his hands together. Scarlet blood compressed between his fingers, gradually forming a walnut-sized blood orb. The terrifying pressure caused white steam to rise in the air. Jiro Awasaka took a deep breath, trying to calm his frantically beating heart. Stay calm, I'm not like that piece of trash just now. I've been working as a curse user for hire since my youth. From beginning to end, I've never failed a single mission, except for the one to assassinate Satoru Gojo. I'm not like these greenhorns. For a full 61 years, I've walked with my chest held high. Jiro Awasaka's innate technique allowed him to be immune to the vast majority of attacks. However, because there was an upper limit to this immunity, he couldn't contend with Satoru Gojo. Excluding special grade sorcerers with absurd cursed energy output, almost no one in the ranks of grade 1 sorcerers could harm him. Piercing blood. The moment Yuji spoke, he suddenly changed direction, turning the piercing blood originally aimed at Jiro Awasaka toward Aoi Todo. A slender blood arrow shot out from the blood orb, its speed almost impossible to capture with the naked eye. Aoi Todo, understanding his intention, raised his hands and clapped. Clap. Jiro Awasaka's pupils shrank violently. Due to the mandatory nature of the clapping swap and the close distance, he had absolutely no chance to react. The blood arrow struck him squarely between the eyebrows. Bang! Jiro Awasaka stumbled back a few steps, head jerking backward. Did it work? Aoi Todo narrowed his eyes. No. Jiro Awasaka quickly stabilized his posture. He raised his hand to his neck, tilted his head, and cracked it. Oh my, that hurts. Young people are so energetic, hitting with such force. He smiled, eyes narrowing, handlebar mustache twitching with his facial muscles. As expected, these two brats can't deal any effective damage to me. It seems my worry just now was unnecessary. Impossible. Aoi Todo frowned. Piercing blood and black flash were the techniques with the highest damage output Yuji could unleash, yet both were ineffective against the old man before them. If Yuji couldn't harm him, let alone Todo, whose innate technique was more support-oriented. Yuji walked up beside Todo. Looking at him, his technique probably isn't the stacking shields on the body type, like my blood armor. He felt this guy looked somewhat familiar. After all, he'd lived for over 80 years in his past life and had seen countless curse users and cursed spirits. If he had to recall carefully, it was impossible to remember every single opponent he'd fought. However, relying on his extensive experience, he could analyze the opponent's technique type to the greatest extent. Todo, let's do it again. Yuji raised his right hand, 5 fingers spread, palm facing up. A scarlet blood orb quickly finished gathering in his palm. Aoi Todo nodded understandingly. Yuji brought his palm close to Todo's lower abdomen, keeping the blood orb just inches away. Clap, supernova. At the sound of the clap, Aoi Todo's figure disappeared, replaced by Jiro Awasaka. Bang 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 bang. Blood struck Jiro Awasaka's torso like shotgun pellets, but his body only swayed slightly from the impact. He didn't even take a half step back. Oh, this move hurts much more than the last one. Young man, you have quite a few tricks up your sleeve. Jiro Awasaka guessed they were going to play the swapping trick again. Before he even finished speaking, he grabbed his knife and slashed at Yuji's neck. Yuji quickly leaned back and retreated several steps, feet continuously stepping back on the ground until he put some distance between himself and the old man. However, the slash had grazed his cheek. Yuji raised his hand to touch his left cheek. A warm, wet sensation reached his fingertips. Oh my, you dodged. Not a bad reaction. I was aiming to slice your throat just now. Jiro Awasaka grew increasingly confident. But you should know by now, right? Ordinary attacks are useless against me. Next time you try that swapping attack, I won't let you escape so easily. Quote. Yuji wiped the wound on his cheek with his fingertip. The shallow scar was immediately healed by the reverse curse technique. I see, I think I understand. Quote. You understand? Jiro Awasaka frowned. He clearly hadn't leaked any information about his technique. Are you hacking? No. This guy is clearly bluffing. I can't let him get to me. Compared to this pink-haired brat, that gorilla is the most troublesome. Every time I attack, he swaps my position, causing my attack to miss. I have to find a chance to deal with him first. Wait, here they come again. Clap. Aoi Todo clapped again, swapping positions with Jiro Awasaka. He took a few steps back and arrived beside Yuji. Quote. I still can't be completely certain, but I know one thing. Our attacks aren't completely ineffective, it's the method of attack that's wrong. Yuji said, the more powerful a technique is, the greater its restrictions. For example, the Big Three family's limitless technique requires possessing both the 6 eyes and the reverse cursed technique simultaneously to unleash its maximum power. Otherwise, not only can the technique not be used for long periods, it will also fry the brain. As for the 10 Shadows technique, the first few Shikigami have average strength, and no one has ever successfully subjugated the strongest one, Mahoraga. My blood manipulation, although its abilities are very balanced and have no apparent weaknesses, must also be paired with the reverse curse technique to be used. Otherwise, the user faces the risk of blood loss at any time. Yuji's special constitution allowed him to convert cursed energy into blood, which made up for this flaw. Almost all techniques follow this rule. Excluding some simple techniques with minimal effects, the stronger the strengths, the more obvious the weaknesses. The more comprehensive the abilities, the lower the ceiling. Excluding the techniques of the Big Three families, the most obvious examples would be cursed speech and construction. So, since this guy is only a grade 1 sorcerer and not a special case like Satoru Gojo, it proves that his technique cannot be immune to all attacks. It follows a certain rule. Just now, Yuji had tried 4 combinations: physical attacks, cursed techniques, single target strikes, and area of effect strikes. Jiro Awasaka currently couldn't pose a fatal threat to them, which was a good thing. They just needed to try the remaining options one by one. Todo, Yuji said decisively, let's do it again. This time, I'll use my full strength, and you hit him with the least amount of force. Todo was stunned. What do you mean by the least amount of force? After he asked, Yuji bent down, picked up a small pebble from the ground, and tossed it to Todo. Like the force of a snowball hitting someone during a snowball fight in winter. Quote. What are these two brats talking about? Jiro Awasaka's pupils shrank violently. You guessed it, impossible. I clearly didn't leak any information about my technique. Jiro Awasaka's technique effect was inverse, within a certain range. Because the technique had upper and lower limits, he could neither withstand Satoru Gojo's attacks nor be harmed by effects akin to a breeze. The moment he realized his technique was exposed, Jiro Awasaka had the thought of running. He'd lived a carefree life because of this technique, but he'd never met someone like Yuji Itadori who could instantly guess the principle of his technique. You know perfectly well whether you're hacking or not. But Yuji and Todo clearly weren't going to give him a chance to escape. Todo infused cursed energy into the stone in his hand and threw it at their feet. Clap, a clap. Jiro Awasaka didn't expect Aoi Todo's boogie-woogie could swap with non-living objects, so this time he wasn't prepared. Yuji's fist was ready to strike. He smashed his fist into Jiro Awasaka's jaw. Bang! No effect at all, but at the same time, Aoi Todo's attack followed closely behind. He delivered a light uppercut to Jiro Awasaka's lower abdomen. The force wasn't great, but Jiro Awasaka's abdomen caved in violently the moment it was hit. PFF'd. Jiro Awasaka violently spat out a large mouthful of blood. Impossible. Don't get too carried away. You two brats. Since he was found out, he would just deactivate his technique and concentrate all his cursed energy on his physical body. The moment this thought arose in Jiro Awasaka's mind, Yuji accurately captured the fluctuation of cursed energy in his body and knew his intentions. Since that was the case, he would no longer hold back. Before Jiro Awasaka could successfully counterattack, the pink-haired boy's fist, wrapped in layers of pitch-black lightning, flew straight at Jiro Awasaka's face. Bang! Jiro Awasaka's body flew backward. After rolling countless times on the ground, his eyes finally rolled back. He lost consciousness, unable to fight anymore. Yuji retracted his fist, slightly stained with bloody froth, without the slightest pause. Let's go. To Fushiguro. Alright. Meanwhile, inside Jujutsu High's storehouse. The door was cracked open from the outside. Light seeped in through the gap. Jago crouched on the ground, its back to the sunlight. It held a grayish-white scroll in its hand, bound with black cords containing several blackened fingers. A total of 6 fingers, plus the first 3 death painting wounds. All collected. It should be more than 10 minutes before Satoru Gojo breaks the curtain. That's enough. Next, it's time to meet Sukuna's vessel. Chapter 38. The arrival of the best bro in the crushing defeat. Ha, ha, ha. Megumi Fushiguro half-knelt on the riverbed, body covered in bruises, black school uniform torn in several places and bleeding profusely. Divine dogs and Nu were destroyed. Meika-senpai. Megumi looked up. Maki Zenin was being held in midair, tree branches extending from Hanami's arm wrapped tightly around her neck. The green-haired woman's face was flushed red from lack of oxygen, looking as if she would completely suffocate in the next second. Unfortunately, just the two of you are no match for me. Now, please die and become sages. Hanami's fingers tightened slightly, the branches constricted further. Maki's eyes were about to roll back. Ha! Megumi tried to stand from the ground but fell back to his knees the moment they left the ground. He clutched his abdomen, where a sharp branch had pierced through. The excruciating pain made him lose his strength and nearly pass out. Hanami tilted its head, looking at him with eyes covered by branches. Why do you struggle so? Damn it, I'm really too useless. I couldn't help at all. Megumi gritted his teeth. An enemy like this, if it were Itadori, maybe he could handle it. Although he verbally said he wanted to catch up to Yuji, in reality, he didn't think he could ever catch up. Yuji was simply too strong. Stronger than all of them. Megumi, do you know your biggest problem? Satoru Gojo stood on the stone steps of the sports field, hands in his pockets, looking down at Megumi Fushiguro sitting beside him. Megumi shook his head. Your mindset is truly terrible. Before a battle, you always calculate the success rate before deciding whether to act. If you can't win, you don't fight. If the odds are low, you don't try. Doing this will indeed let you live longer, but it will also keep you stuck in place forever. If you keep this up, forget about Yuji, you won't even be able to surpass Nanami. Megumi was silent for a while. Is it wrong to do that? It's not exactly wrong. It's just not suitable for you. Satoru Gojo let out a long sigh. Your innate technique, the 10 Shadows technique, is as famous as my Limitless. Have some confidence, will you? As a sorcerer, you are too rational. The Jujutsu sorcerer profession is fundamentally a bunch of crazy people fighting another bunch of crazy people. I don't want you to become someone like Yuji or Okkotsu. I just hope you believe in your talent. Your innate technique, your talent, your potential, they are not inferior to anyone's. Believe that I can defeat the monster in front of me. How can I do that? Megumi thought of the memory from yesterday evening, when Yuji Itadori and Satoru Gojo walked in front of him with their arms around each other's shoulders. Those two left him far behind. It wasn't a matter of whether he worked hard or not. No matter how he tried to catch up, he didn't think he could ever be like Yuji. This was Megumi Fushigiro's self-perception. If Itadori is the light, then I am the shadow. The light is an existence I can never reach. However, even if it's minuscule, a shadow also has the role of a shadow. So, Megumi began to form hand signs. A dangerous cursed energy surged from him. Furug, clap, ... a sound. When Megumi came back to his senses, he found himself teleported to the woods beside the riverbank, not far from the battlefield he'd just been on. At that moment, two foreign figures appeared on the riverbank. Aoi Todo's right fist was tightly clenched, cyan cursed energy burning. Bang! A punch landed on Hanami's chest. The curse's feet slid backward, forcing it to release Maki. Yuji caught the green-haired woman in his arms. "Are you okay, Meika-senpai?" Hiss. "Ha, I'm fine." Maki showed a pained expression, panting heavily. But fortunately, Yuji and Todo had arrived just as they were defeated, so she didn't suffer any fatal injuries. "Todo, I'll leave this to you for now. Don't worry, brother." Hearing this, Yuji carried Maki and rushed toward Megumi. He placed her on the grass beside him. "Itadori, I thought you couldn't hold out against Naoya Zenon's attacks." He turned his head and found that the hot-tempered Aoi Todo not only hadn't fought Yuji, but the two seemed to have formed a partnership. "Don't move, I'll stop the bleeding for you." Megumi wanted to speak, but Yuji interrupted him. The pink-haired boy placed his hands on their shoulders, a faint white light shining in his palms. After the protracted battle with Naoya Zenon and the fight just now, Yuji's cursed energy was depleted by about 50%. Even so, sparing some to stop their bleeding was manageable. "You actually know the reverse curse technique?" Megumi asked weakly. "Gojo-sensei taught me, I only know a little bit." Yuji answered. Megumi looked at the gradually healing wound on his abdomen, then looked at Yuji. Silent for a moment. "Is there anything you don't know?" Maki felt her throat ease up a bit. She forced a smile of surviving a disaster. "Itadori, do you know? You remind me of the night parade of 100 demons a year ago. Okkotsu saved me, Panda, and the others just like this back then." Yuji didn't consume too much cursed energy, only helping the two stop their bleeding. "Alright, you guys go quickly, leave the barrier and find Shokosen for treatment." Maki's physical constitution was much better than Megumi's. She got up, put Megumi's arm over her shoulder, and stood with him. "Itadori, thank you so much this time. If it weren't for you, we probably would have died." "How's Naoya doing?" Maki asked again. Yuji nodded. "He was defeated by me." "You kid, I knew it, you always bring unexpected surprises." Maki supported Megumi and turned to leave. "About the training on the day school started. I'm sorry." Yuji was stunned for a moment before recalling the incident where Maki had been angered to the point of breaking her composure by his talent when he first enrolled. "It's nothing, I didn't mind anyway." Yuji scratched his head. "Also, thank you for the matter with Naoya Zenon. You clearly had no obligation to help me." "No need to thank me. We're all friends." Yuji raised his hand and gave Maki a thumbs up with a smile. "Friends, huh?" Maki smiled helplessly. "No wonder that Fushiguro kid is so infatuated with you." Yuji, Megumi, "Hey, Meika-senpai, don't talk nonsense." Let's go first. Don't hold him back." Yuji felt a chill run down his spine, but seeing the two supporting each other as they left, he pulled his thoughts back and turned his gaze to Hanami and Aoi Todo fighting nearby. Although Hanami's defense was strong, Aoi Todo's boogie-woogie gave him extremely high mobility. Under their combined attacks, Hanami was nothing more than a durable punching bag. Bang! Aoi Todo knocked Hanami back with a punch. The curse stumbled back several steps, splashing water. Currently, Hanami hadn't managed to injure Aoi Todo. "Hey, big guy, you're the one who rescued Mahito last time, right?" Hanami shook its hand, the dent on its arm repaired by cursed energy. It turned to look at Yuji. "So what if I am? How's that Mahito guy doing now?" Yuji walked up to Aoi Todo and continued asking. "Mahito, he's been depressed recently." Hanami was silent for a while, its tone somewhat heavy. "Is that so? That guy really deserves to be depressed." Just as I thought." Smile appeared on Yuji's face. After all, Yuji had almost beat the living daylights out of Mahito back then. It was only natural to gloat now. Don't you think it's cruel? Hanami became agitated seeing the smile on Yuji's face. You destroyed a curse's will. No, he destroyed others' wills first. This is called reaping what you sow. Yuji said, you should know better than me how many people he's killed, so don't talk to me about cruelty. You guys invaded Jujutsu High. Hurt my companions. Who knows how many people Mahito has harmed? It's perfectly justified for me to exorcise you. Since he thinks a so-called strong person can freely slaughter humans, then applying that logic, it's only natural that his will was destroyed by me. Hanami was silent for a while. You're right, you are humans. I am a curse. Mahito indeed reaped what he sowed. I never wanted to fight Sukuna's vessel, but Jago is stealing Sukuna's fingers in the storehouse. There's no other way now. Hanami untied the cloth wrapping on its left shoulder, revealing a bright, giant red flower. At the center of the flower was a mass of tissue resembling an eyeball. This flower could absorb the life energy of plants and convert it into cursed energy. I'll use that move Kenjaku gave me. Hanami raised its hands to form a sign. Domain expansion, ceremonial sea of light. Clap. The moment Aoi Todo sensed Hanami's intention, he completed a boogie-woogie swap. Yuji was also ready to attack. The two coordinated flawlessly, almost like old friends who had known each other for years. Black flash, bang. The pink-haired boy delivered an uppercut to Hanami's jaw. With a crack, the curse's epidermis shattered. Clap. Aoi Todo clapped again to swap. This time, he and Yuji swapped positions. Before Hanami could adjust its balance, his fist descended. Bang! Aoi Todo's punch landed on Hanami's chest, knocking it back several steps. However, he didn't unleash a black flash, so the punch was weaker than Yuji's. This gave Hanami a chance to counterattack. Not done yet. Hanami raised its hand. Several thick tree roots burst through the water surface under Aoi Todo's feet, trying to entangle his body. Clap. But before that, Aoi Todo completed a clapping swap. Hanami's vision blurred. It barely realized it had swapped positions with Aoi Todo. The tree roots meant to bind Aoi Todo ended up entangling itself instead. Damn it, Hanami said in frustration. Without giving it a chance to break free, Yuji sprinted to their side. He pushed off the ground with his right foot, leaping high into the air, and kicked Hanami's left cheek. Black flash, the second black flash, bang. Hanami's head jerked violently to one side. A bone-cracking sound came from its cervical spine. Aoi Todo's attack followed closely behind. Not done yet. Bang! Aoi Todo kicked Hanami's torso. The tree roots binding it snapped. The curse flew backward. Boom! So fast. There was absolutely no chance to activate the technique. Yuji fell from the air onto the water surface, not forgetting to praise. Beautifully done, brother. You're not bad either, brother. I'm going to unseal my technique next. Todo, let's finish this quickly. Yuji took a half step back on the water surface. Unseal. The moment Todo spoke, Yuji took a deep breath and slowly closed his eyes. The next second, whoosh, scarlet liquid gushed from behind him. This liquid spread out behind Yuji as if alive. Its quantity was not something a simple blood stream could compare to. The fresh blood covered the space behind the two like a curtain. The blood began to spontaneously gather toward several points around Yuji, eventually forming several blood orbs of varying sizes. Last time I let you rescue Mahito. This time, I won't make the same mistake. Kenjaku wasn't nearby. No one could interrupt him. Yuji Itadori was going to use his full strength. Let's see just how many consecutive black flashes you can withstand. Chapter 39. The Social Death of Naoya Zenin. Unseal. Then I won't hold back either. Don't think you'll succeed. Hanami spread its arms. The ground behind it began to wildly sprout countless giant roots. Hundreds, thousands of thick tree roots burst from the earth simultaneously, densely packed together, almost blotting out the sky and sun. It raised its hand and made a grabbing motion toward Todo and Yuji. The tree roots immediately gathered together, forming sharp, piercing shapes. This muscular man's technique should be swapping positions with others. In that case, I just need to include everything around me in my attack range. Hanami thought to itself. Aoi Todo frowned. Against such a large-scale technique, his boogie-woogie couldn't make any effective evasions. Brother, let's retreat. No, Todo. Yuji shook his head. Quote. Although my blood manipulation can convert cursed energy into blood, solving the user's blood shortage problem, blindly converting a massive amount of cursed energy into fresh blood is a thankless task. Not only does it require dividing my attention to manipulate it during battle, but it also consumes even more cursed energy. So I usually only do this when I decide on a one-hit kill. You mean? Aoi Todo vaguely understood Yuji's meaning. Look over there, Todo. Yuji raised his hand, pointing to the end of the riverbank. The endless tree roots forming spikes covered the sky above their heads like a waterfall. Aoi Todo sensed the approaching danger, but willing to trust his brother, he looked in the direction Yuji pointed. At the end of the riverbank, he saw a white-haired boy running toward them. Tuna Mayo, Inamaki. Aoi Todo was surprised, but he and Yuji both understandingly raised their hands to cover their ears. At the same time, Toge Inamaki pulled down his collar and shouted loudly in their direction. Don't move. Hanami's movements stopped. Those overwhelming tree root spikes came to an abrupt halt less than a meter above Yuji and Todo's heads. The thick wood fibers trembled violently from the sudden stop. Question mark exclamation mark quote. Hanami widened its eyes. Cursed speech. Salmon. Toge Inamaki's hoarse voice came again. For Yuji Itadori, buying a little time was enough. At the same time, Aoi Todo understandingly raised his hand to swap. Clap. Boogie Woogie had no cooldown and no casting delay. It only required completing the action of clapping to activate the forced swapping technique. Aoi Todo and Hanami swapped positions. Hanami didn't even have time to react. The world before its eyes turned upside down. It was thrown directly from the center of the sea of trees to Yuji Itadori's side. You. Hanami's voice carried shock and anger. I'll just sneak attack it to death. The corners of Yuji's mouth curled up. The blood orbs floating beside him flew toward Hanami along with his movements. However, this time the goal wasn't to attack, but to stick to Hanami's body from all directions like iron filings attracted to a magnet. Chest, abdomen, back, shoulders, limbs. Every single blood orb accurately adhered to Hanami's body surface. Toge Inamaki's cursed speech was still in effect. Yuji unhurriedly placed his palm on Hanami's chest. Reverse curse technique, a master skill that only a very few people in this world could grasp. Its function was to convert cursed energy, which originally represented negative energy, into positive energy and output it. Hanami's defense was extremely strong, significantly stronger than Mahito, whom Yuji had encountered previously. For him now, he would probably need to land 8 or even more black flashes to kill it. However, besides physical attacks, there was another way to quickly exorcise a curse. A curse's body is composed of cursed energy. Once it comes into contact with positive energy like the reverse curse technique, its body will disintegrate. However, outputting the reverse curse technique externally required a certain amount of time. In a head-on confrontation, he would hardly have any chance to grasp it. Beep beep beep, beep beep beep. During the journey here earlier, Yuji had received a call from Panda. Itadori, are you okay? Panda-senpai, I'm fine. I'm with Kugasaki and Inamaki right now. Besides that, there are 2 people from the Kyoto school. Inamaki was originally arranged by us to go deep into the forest to exorcise curses, but he came back halfway, saying he saw a completely white special grade curse from afar. I know. How's your situation? Yuji replied. Kugasaki and I are both injured, but Inamaki is in good condition. Okay, then. Yuji placed his palm on Hanami's chest. The pale white exoskeleton was rough yet hard, feeling like touching the bark of a millennium-old tree. I once thought about a question. I was wondering, is everyone in this world worth saving? When Junpei was bullied, I wanted to save him. When Nanami-san was heavily injured by Mahito, I wanted to save him. When Meika-senpai was looked down upon by the Zenin clan, I also wanted to help her. Yuji was confident in exorcising Hanami. He spoke calmly. Before my grandfather died, he told me that because I'm strong, I should save others. Save as many as I can. Back then, I always kept those words in my heart. So sometimes I would also think, can't curses be saved too? But Mahito made me realize that curses are not worth saving. You are born from humanity's negative emotions. Fear, anger, sorrow, resentment. Your very existence is the materialization of human suffering. You don't need to eat. You don't need to breathe. You don't need anything humans rely on to survive. The only thing you need is human suffering. So you are the complete opposite of humans. Therefore, Yuji later figured it out. He couldn't make curses good, he could only try to stop curses from being born. Yuji Itadori was an extremely kind and soft-hearted person. In his past life, he was unwilling to kill humans. He was the same now. Only when he had to kill would he resort to such extreme methods. But, for you guys, I won't have any pity. After Yuji finished speaking, he poured the positive energy in his body from his palm into Hanami's body. To humans, it was a panacea that cured all pain. But to curses born from death and suffering, it was a natural enemy more fatal than any deadly poison. At the same time, supernova, countless tiny blood beads shot out from the blood orbs, but they didn't scatter outward. They were all driven into Hanami's body. Bang 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 bang. Muffled explosions came from within Hanami's body. The blood beads pierced its body, leaving countless tiny bullet holes on its surface. Body fluids and wood chips gushed out from every bullet hole. Hanami's body instantly turned into a sieve. Not done yet. Reverse curse technique. Maximum output. Squish. Half of Hanami's body began to swell like a water balloon. The reverse curse technique energy poured wildly into its body with Yuji's palm as the center. The violent energy completely destroyed the cells in Hanami's body. In less than a second, the energy exceeded the limit its shell could contain. Boom. Half of Hanami's body exploded violently. From its entire right arm to half of its torso, even its head wasn't spared, half of it sheared off by the violent energy. Thud. The curse fell to the ground at the sound. Hanami's right half of its torso had completely disappeared. The cut was neat, however, the vitality of a curse is much more tenacious than a human's, so it didn't die completely. Yuji looked down at Hanami from above. The latter looked at him with its only remaining half-eye covered by branches. Quote. You're right, we are the opposite of humans. But, so, what? We are born from humanity's fear. We ourselves are a part of nature. Just like forests will burn, the earth will shake, rivers will dry up. We are just fulfilling our mission. Quote. Quote. Yuji was puzzled. Is your mission to kill humans? Quote. Humans, aren't they creatures that constantly hurt each other? Hanami asked in return. You humans, for land, for resources, for faith, for those illusory reasons, how many of your own kind have you killed? We curses are born from humanity's negative emotions, as killing humans is just fulfilling the mission given to us by humans. If one day, humans no longer hate each other, no longer hurt each other, no longer create suffering, we will naturally disappear. But until then, we will continue to exist. Hanami's voice was extremely weak, as if it would completely breathe its last in the next second. I'm not the only curse doing this. Hanami paused. The corners of its mouth suddenly curled into a smile. My companion will finish what's next. You will eventually die, Yuji Itadori. The moment Hanami's voice fell, the three people present felt a strong fluctuation of cursed energy coming from not far away. Yuji's pupils shrank violently. He and the other two quickly turned around, looking in the direction the cursed energy came from. No. Did Kenjaku send other cursed spirits? In the exchange event of his past life, the only cursed spirit he'd seen was Hanami. Until Gojo-sensei broke the curtain, he didn't see a second special grade curse. Mahito should be depressed right now, so it wasn't him. Dagon or Jago. This cursed energy, another one is coming. Aoi Todo's expression was grave. Salmon. Toge Inamaki also looked up. The white-haired boy pulled down his collar, ready to use cursed speech at any moment. The three assumed fighting stances. At this moment, a figure rushed out from the woods. Blonde hair plastered messily to his face. Black haori hanging in tatters on his body, revealing the bruised and battered skin underneath. A trail of unwiped blood hung from the corner of his mouth. He looked as miserable as a drowned rat pulled from the water. But his eyes were different. The narrow eyes burned with almost maddening anger, like a beast pushed to the brink. Even though he was covered in injuries, he still bared his fangs to let out a final roar at the hunter. Naoya Zenin, the genius of the Zenin clan. The rising star, the next head of the Zenin clan. User of projection sorcery, the legendary massage master. Top 10 Grade 1 Jujutsu sorcerers of 2008. Toji Fushigiro's most steadfast supporter. The man who dreamed of standing shoulder to shoulder with Satoru Gojo. Quote. Damn, who pulled this guy out? Yuji's expression went from grave to confused, from confused to sudden realization, and from sudden realization to a look somewhere between, who the fuck did I think it was, and, you again. He opened his palm. The blood orb dispersed with a splat. Naoya Zenin. This guy hasn't been carried away yet. The corners of Aoi Todo's mouth twitched twice. Bonito flakes. Toge Inamaki silently pulled his collar back up. The three looked at the blonde man not far away, covered in injuries, clearly panting heavily, yet still putting on an, I can fight 10 of you, stance. Aoi Todo suddenly felt a bit of pity. Not pity for Naoya Zenin, but pity for the moment he got serious just now. Yuji Itadori. Naoya Zenin shouted hysterically. I was far from using my full strength. You despicable coward, you actually dared to trick me. Yuji's expression was complicated. He had indeed held back when he hit Naoya Zenin just now. Naoya Zenin was the legitimate son of the Zenin clan. If he really beat Naoya to death here, what awaited him would be the crazy revenge of the entire Zenin clan. Currently, the Zenin clan hadn't fallen into chaos like during the culling game. The clan head, Naobito Zenin, was still alive. Under that old man's control, although the Zenin clan was full of internal conflicts, it could at least maintain superficial stability. Naoya, giving face to his father, naturally wouldn't dare to act recklessly. The bad things this guy did truly didn't warrant death. At most, he liked to bully others, so Yuji spared his life. When there was a chance in the future, he would kill Naoya Zenin then. Although Yuji held back, Naoya's strength was indeed not bad. To be able to stand up after taking 2 black flashes head-on. But Yuji clearly underestimated one thing, Naoya Zenin's pride. For this young master of the Zenin clan, who grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth, being knocked out in 2 punches by a freshman who'd been enrolled for less than a week was something more unbearable than killing him. So the first thing he did after waking up wasn't going to the infirmary for treatment, but dragging his battered body, following the residual cursed energy Yuji left behind, and chasing him all the way here. He wanted to prove that Yuji only won by tricking him. Prove that he was the strong one who could stand shoulder to shoulder with Toji Fushiguro. I don't accept this. Those 2 punches of yours weren't a head-on victory at all. You relied on tricks. You relied on sneak attacks. Naoya-senpai. Yuji scratched his head. Why don't you go back and rest first? Your injuries haven't healed. If you keep this up, you'll have lingering effects. Cut the crap. Naoya Zenin roared. I don't need your pity. I want to fight you again. Fair and square. No tricks allowed. Hey, you called Naoya, you can't even beat me, and you want to fight my brother. Aoi Todo rolled his eyes at Naoya. You gorilla-looking guy, I've disliked you for a long time. Watch me take you all down at once. Naoya said, about to charge at the 3. Seeing him like this, Yuji felt incredibly helpless. But at this moment, a wicked idea suddenly popped into the pink-haired boy's mind. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Then he leaned close to Toge Inamaki's ear and whispered a few words. Toge Inamaki's eyes widened more and more. Hearing this, he turned to look at Yuji, then shook his head. Bonito flakes. Menteiko. Please, Inamaka-senpai. This is the most convenient way. We can't just knock him out, right? If we do, we'll have another burden to carry. Yuji put his hands together, pleading. A hint of hesitation showed in Toge Inamaki's eyes, but he finally nodded. Salmon. Todo, quickly cover your ears. I don't want to be affected by this cursed speech. Yuji quickly reminded. Todo obediently covered his ears. Toge Inamaki pulled open his collar, looked at Naoya Zenin charging toward them, and took a deep breath. Pee your pants. When these 3 words clearly reached Naoya Zenin's ears, the blonde playboy finally woke up to reality. Naoya's pupils shrank violently. He quickly stopped in his tracks, then subconsciously clamped his legs together. Wait, stop. Feeling his uncontrollable bladder, fear entered his voice for the first time. Yumera. The effect of cursed speech began to take hold. Naoya Zenin's body trembled uncontrollably. His face turned bright red. He ultimately couldn't resist the mandatory effect of cursed speech. A stream of warm liquid flowed down his inner thigh, wetting his pants, and forming a small puddle on the cobblestones of the riverbank. The air froze instantly. Yuji puffed his cheeks, holding it in. Aoi Todo couldn't hold it in. PFF'd. The 1.9 meter tall burly man clutched his stomach and squatted on the ground. Ha 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 ha. You actually, ha 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 ha. Quote. Naoya Zenin stood in place. Neither sad nor happy, just a sense of bewilderment. But it wasn't because he wasn't angry, it was because he had surpassed the limit of anger, entering a brand new realm called social death. His lips trembled, his fists clenched. Yuji, Itadori. You guys wait for me. I will be back. Naoya Zenin's roar echoed in the forest. Projection sorcery activated rapidly, his figure turned into an afterimage, disappearing deep into the forest at a speed even faster than when he arrived, leaving only that small reflecting puddle on the ground to prove he had indeed been there. Yuji finally couldn't hold it in anymore. PFF'd. Ha 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 ha. Inamaki-senpai, you're too ruthless. Salmon, I figured it out. Toge Inamaki put his hands on his hips, puffing out his chest proudly. Tuna mayo, for this kind of person who cares so much about face, you have to use strong medicine. I've been at Jujutsu High for so many years, and this is the first time I've seen an attack method more cruel than Black Flash. Aoi Todo commented. Who told him to be a scumbag? Yuji shrugged with a relaxed expression, then glanced at Hanami, which had completely lost its life and was lying to the side. It's over. Scumbags have to get their comeuppance. When he was bullying Meika-senpai, did he ever think he would end up like this? Alright, let's go. This curse seems to be dead. There might be other curse users hiding nearby. Let's go meet up with the other students first. Aoi Todo suggested. Salmon, okay, let's go. Yuji nodded. The setting sun sank below the ridge line. The three walked toward the sunlight above their heads. However, before they could take a few steps, a hoarse voice suddenly came from behind Yuji. Hanami, you've worked hard. Leave the rest to me. Quote. Yuji's steps froze. He turned his head and found a short, volcano-headed cursed spirit crouching beside Hanami, its palm slowly rubbing its companion's remaining half-chest. Jago turned its head, stood up, and its single eye swept over the three people present. Chapter 40. The Transaction. Thank you for your hard work, Hanami. Leave the rest to me. The moment Jago stood up, the three people present felt a massive, indescribable cursed energy. This cursed energy pressed down on them like a towering wave. Cold sweat poured down Aoi Todo and Toge Inamaki's faces. Yuji's pupils shrank slightly. This guy just now poured a massive amount of its own cursed energy into the dying Hanami, thereby saving Hanami's life. Jago casually raised its hand toward Yuji. Ember insects. A swarm of mosquito-like insects, each the size of a normal adult human head, rapidly formed beside Jago. Before Jago could finish its sentence, they charged right in front of Yuji. So fast, almost the same speed as that Naoya Zenin. But Naoya's speed was extreme because his technique could accelerate, whereas Jago's own speed was inherently beyond limits. No time to condense blood armor. Crap, I have to take it head on. Brother, clap. Just as the pink-haired boy crossed his arms, subconsciously closed his eyes, and prepared to take Jago's attack head on, he felt his world spin in the next second. A crisp clap exploded in his ear. Aoi Todo clapped instantly, swapping positions with him. When Yuji opened his eyes again, the sight before him was all the ember insects pouncing on Aoi Todo. The insects, sharp mouthparts pierced Aoi Todo's arms and torso. These ember insects then began to glow with an orange-yellow light, releasing all the heat within their bodies the moment they pierced the target. Boom, Todo. Each ember insect was like a miniature explosive shell. Not only did they attack with explosions, but the sound waves they released could also cause the enemy to fall into a brief coma. The heat from the explosion sent Aoi Todo flying. He crashed onto the riverbed not far away. White steam rose. Todo's skin instantly charred black under the high temperature, revealing the scarlet muscle texture underneath. That's one, although the target was wrong. The pungent smell of burning flesh filled the air. Jago then turned its arm toward Toge Inamaki. Whoosh! Crimson flames spewed from its palm. The towering flames transformed into a massive pillar of fire several meters in radius, sweeping toward Toge Inamaki with a momentum that seemed capable of swallowing everything. Inamaki-senpai. The towering flames burned so hot that the air began to distort. The river water beneath their feet rapidly evaporated from the high temperature. If this hit, Toge Inamaki would surely die. However, although the range of the flames was wide, their speed was much slower than the ember insects. Yuji dove toward Toge Inamaki to the side. Get down. The moment Yuji tackled Toge Inamaki to the ground, A large pool of fresh blood welled up beside them. Yuji was converting all his cursed energy into blood, the scarlet liquid unfurling like a giant curtain in front of Toge Inumaki. Splash! The towering flames crashed into the sea of blood. The blood began to boil the moment it contacted the flames. White steam rose from the surface of the blood sea. The edges of the blood sea quickly began to thin, the white steam growing thicker. The flames seeped in through the weak points of the blood, like a flood about to break through a dam. After the consumption of several previous battles, Yuji felt the cursed energy in his body bottoming out at a visible rate. Inumaki-senpai, go quickly, take Todo and leave. Yuji gritted his teeth and said to Inumaki. Benito flakes, no, what about you? Don't dawdle, I have another way. You guys staying here will only hold me back. Go quickly. Yuji roared. Toge Inumaki was silent for a while, then finally broke free from Yuji's embrace. After he stumbled to his feet, the flames spewing from Jago's palm finally stopped. A massive amount of steam enveloped the surroundings, almost completely obscuring their vision. Taking advantage of the steam blurring their vision, Toge Inumaki pulled down his collar. Don't move. Jago had just lowered its hand, preparing for the next round of attacks, when the compelling force of cursed speech froze it in place. The curse was stunned, but at the same time, Toge Inumaki spat out a mouthful of blood. PFF'd. Cough cough cough. Toge Inumaki clutched his throat and said to Yuji in a hoarse voice, Salmon. Tuna mayo, I'll go first. You absolutely must not die. After finishing this last task, the white-haired boy rushed toward Aoi Todo. He unsteadily hoisted Todo onto his shoulder and ran quickly toward the outside of the barrier. Don't worry, I will win. Yuji briefly glanced at their retreating figures, then broke into a run. The time effect of cursed speech was only about 2 short seconds. He had to use this only opportunity created by Toge Inumaki's control over Jago to strike first with a black flash. Boom! Kicking off the ground fiercely, sending rubble flying, Yuji's body shot toward Jago like an arrow loosed from a bow. Jago's body remained immobile, having not yet broken free from the confinement of cursed speech. However, just as Yuji raised his fist, the cyan cursed energy burning on it gradually turning pitch black. Yuji saw Jago's mouth curl into a grin, revealing 2 rows of pitch black teeth. At the same time, the pink-haired boy sensed 2 strong fluctuations of cursed energy from both sides of his body. Even though its body couldn't move, Jago could still freely mobilize its cursed energy. So the moment Yuji charged forward, it was ready to counterattack. From the corner of his eye, Yuji caught sight of 2 dark red silhouettes bulging from the ground. 2 small, curved volcanoes, barely half a person's height, with their craters angled unnaturally, anticipating his charging direction. The speed was so fast that Yuji had absolutely no way to defend. Boom! The 2 volcanoes erupted simultaneously. Crimson magma spewed from the craters, pincer attacking Yuji from both the left and right sides simultaneously. It instantly covered the pink-haired boy's body. Scorching heat, crushing him from all directions. A scorching heat that left him nowhere to escape. Yuji felt as if he had been stuffed into an erupting volcano. His skin began to crack under the high temperature. Every inch of skin exposed to the flames crying out in pain. Amidst the endless flames, he saw Jago's figure drawing closer and closer. Jago sprinted right in front of Yuji. It leapt into the air and kicked him in the face. Bang! Yuji's body flew backward out of the flames, crashing into the steam-filled air, then fell heavily to the ground. The steam generated by the clash of blood and fire earlier hadn't dissipated, but Jago could pinpoint Yuji's exact location through their respective cursed energy. It continued expressionlessly. Sukuna's vessel, you indeed have some skills. To reach the level of exercising Mahito and Hanami after only being in contact with Jujutsu for a few days. No wonder Mahito got beaten into depression by you. Perhaps your talent is greater than Mahito's. It's just a pity that your life ends here. There are still 10 minutes left. Jago thought to itself. In that case, it would just heavily injure Yuji Itadori along the way, forcing him to sign a binding vow to exchange bodies with Sukuna. Yuji didn't answer. He just slowly stood up from the ground. White gas continuously rose from his charred skin, blending into the surrounding steam. He looked like an iron block just taken out of a furnace and plunged into cold water. His school uniform had completely turned into tattered rags hanging off him. His skin surface was covered in charred burn scars. Ha, 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 every breath felt like sandpaper scraping back and forth in his trachea. The inhaled air carried the residual scorching heat of the flames. The exhaled breath was mixed with a faint smell of blood. The operation of the reverse curse technique had completely stopped. It wasn't that he didn't want to use it, his cursed energy had completely bottomed out. To be able to freely operate the reverse curse technique, Yuji would have to wait until he had eaten at least 8 or 9 fingers. Yuji lowered his head, looking at his slightly trembling hands. The backs of his hands were covered in burn scars. The skin on his knuckles cracked open. The flesh underneath was a charred mess. 5 days. From his rebirth to now, it had only been 5 days. He was confident he could recover his peak strength within half a year. No, maybe he didn't even need half a year. With the experience and skills accumulated over 68 years, 3 months would be enough. But the time left for him now was simply too short. The gap in time couldn't be made up by experience and skills alone. 68 years had taught him how to become stronger quickly, but knowing how was one thing. The physical gap couldn't be bridged. Just like computer hardware unable to support software that requires massive processing power. Most of the cursed energy provided to Yuji by Sukuna's fingers had been absorbed by Sukuna. When Yuji ate the first finger, he only went from an ordinary person to being able to see cursed spirits. Back then, condensing a small blood orb was very strenuous for him. Up until now, he had only eaten 4 fingers. His cursed energy was completely exhausted. Like the most delicious, high-end cake shop, looking empty near closing time, it was inevitably disappointing. Ha, ha, ha. But he still had a chance. Gojo-sensei was outside the barrier. He just needed to hold out for about 10 minutes, and Satoru Gojo would be able to break the barrier. As long as he did that, Yuji suddenly felt his vision go dark. When he came back to his senses, beneath him was no longer the ground by the riverbank, but a pool of scarlet water. Only, he wasn't stepping on the water surface. He was sitting on a small hill made of cattle and sheep skulls. Hey, brat. Yuji turned his head and found Sukuna sitting next to him. Sukuna, why did you suddenly pull me in here? This time, he hadn't actively faded his consciousness. Sukuna had pulled him in. Yuji was surprised. Usually, when he fought, Sukuna would just watch silently from within his body, never interfering or disturbing him. So now, the pink-haired boy didn't quite understand Sukuna's intention. The two were sitting side by side on the pile of bones. Brat, it looks like you're going to lose. A smile hung on Sukuna's face. He was crossing his legs, resting his chin on one hand, his crimson eyes glancing sideways at him. Not necessarily. Yuji shook his head. I just need to buy time. Gojo-sensei will break the curtain soon. Buy time. Sukuna repeated the phrase. His tone was somewhat disgusted. That kind of fighting style, clinging to life, is too boring. That's not what I want to see. Your cursed energy manipulation is much finer than that volcano head's, and your understanding of innate techniques is better too. You crush it in almost every aspect, but because of your lack of cursed energy reserves, you're being beaten to a pulp by it. Aren't you unwilling to accept this? Truly disappointing, brat. Sukuna raised an eyebrow, then shook his head to himself. Yuji was silent for a moment, then spoke. What exactly do you want? Hee. Sukuna chuckled, shifting his position on the pile of bones to cross his other leg. How about I lend you my cursed energy? Quote. Yuji was stunned. He looked at Sukuna's face, which was exactly the same as his own, and finally shook his head. No need. The boy's voice was calm. Sukuna, I don't need to borrow your power. In his past life, when the fledgling Yuji Itadori fell into desperate straits, he would think about letting Sukuna out to face the enemy. Back then, he was too weak. So weak that when facing a special grade curse, he could only pin his hopes on another, more powerful existence. But now he wouldn't. Sukuna was Sukuna, and he was he. Using someone else's power to fight the enemy was completely meaningless. Oh, Sukuna raised an eyebrow, refusing so decisively. I'm not giving it to you for free, stinking brat. You have to pay me. Sukuna didn't expect Yuji to answer him like that. He raised his arm and put it around Yuji's shoulders. Don't you want to exorcise those 2 curses? If you exorcise those 2 guys, who knows how many humans will be saved? After Sukuna finished speaking, a hint of hesitation flashed in Yuji's eyes. Sukuna caught that momentary wavering. The curve of his mouth widened a bit more. 1 finger. I'll only give you the cursed energy of one finger. Sukuna held up one finger. In exchange, first, starting today, for the next year, you have to give me control of the body for 2 hours every night. I want to play games. Watching you play, you stinking brat, is too infuriating. After he finished speaking, he held up a second finger. Second, every noon, you must take me out to eat desserts. Bring me desserts from the most expensive dessert shops in Tokyo. Don't try to fob me off with cheap stuff. That's all. If you're willing to agree to these conditions, I'll lend you my power. Yuji's eyes widened slightly. He looked at Sukuna's smiling face, and a sudden warmth rose in his heart. Are you actually caring about me? Sukuna. Question mark. Sukuna's expression froze. A flash of annoyance crossed his face, which then turned into disdain. HMPH. He turned his head away. His voice turned cold. I'm not caring about you, nor am I helping you, stinking brat. It's a transaction. Understand? A transaction. Yuji understood Sukuna's meaning. It seemed his efforts these past few days hadn't been in vain. A smile also appeared on the boy's face. All right, I agree, but just this once. Hehe, whatever, I can't be bothered with your matters either. Did you think I wanted to lend you my power? Sukuna snorted coldly and turned his head back. Then it's settled. It's a deal. Yeah, it's a deal. The two didn't sign a binding vow. Sukuna believed Yuji wouldn't break his promise, and Yuji indeed wouldn't. After spending these past few days together, an invisible tacit understanding had formed between them. Phew, then I'll be going. Go on, kid, show that guy what your potential really is. Yeah, Yuji exhaled a breath of stale air, then closed his eyes. In the blink of an eye, his consciousness returned to reality. Ha, ha, ha. Jago stared at the swaying figure not far away. As a cursed spirit, it also sensed the depleted cursed energy within Yuji's body. From that charred body, probably not even the last dregs of cursed energy could be squeezed out, right? Standing there panting heavily now, he was nothing more than a battered and bruised human. Yuji Itadori, aren't you planning to let Sukuna out? If this continues, you really will die by my hands. Yuji didn't answer Jago's question. He looked down at his hands, covered in burn scars. I originally didn't want to borrow Sukuna's power. But it couldn't be helped. Yuji originally would have explicitly refused Sukuna's request, but he suddenly realized he didn't want to reject Sukuna's enthusiasm. That incredibly stubborn king of curses clearly just wanted to help him, but insisted on talking about transactions, payment, and I'm not caring about you. He was clearly starting to enjoy their time playing games and eating desserts together, but he would die before admitting it. If Sukuna could truly experience the joys of life, understand that everyone's life has value, and realize that this world isn't just about the strong preying on the weak and doing whatever one pleases, then Yuji would probably be happy for him too. Therefore, Yuji didn't refuse Sukuna. Yuji raised his hands, bringing his palms level with his head. He looked at his charred palms. Pitch-black cursed marks appeared on his skin, extending from the corners of his eyes like two streaks of dried ink, spreading all the way down his jawline. His heavy panting gradually ceased. The reverse curse technique began to operate. The charred burns on his palms faded at a visible rate. White steam rose from his body. An extremely massive cursed energy filled his limbs and bones. The boy took a deep breath. Come on, Sukuna, let's do this together. Chapter 41, The Power of One Finger. What is this? Jago's Adam's apple bobbed. Cold sweat dripped from its forehead. The originally battered and bruised boy stopped panting. Yuji raised his hand, and the charred marks on his body faded at a visible rate. New skin spread from the edges of the scars toward the center. White steam rose. He opened his eyes and looked expressionlessly at Jago. Those originally amber pupils had turned crimson. What is this feeling? What is this presence? The total amount of cursed energy wasn't much. Jago made a quick estimation and reached a conclusion. It was roughly equivalent to the amount of one of Sukuna's fingers. Not even a fifth of its own cursed energy reserves. The reason Yuji had been able to exorcise Hanami earlier was relying on seamless coordination with his companion in the counter of the reverse cursed technique, rather than a clash of cursed energy. But now, the cursed energy surging from within this pink-haired boy was 10 or even 100 times denser than the incredibly thin cursed energy he'd had before. The cursed energy within Yuji drifted out almost tangibly. This thick cursed energy pressed down on Jago's head, making it inevitably apprehensive. During the golden age of Jujutsu 1,000 years ago, the entire Jujutsu world united to crusade against a single enemy, only to be slaughtered single-handedly. Curse users and cursed spirits fell under his blade-like cut grass. Sukuna, or you Sukuna, has Yuji Itadori finally formed a binding vow with you? Jago managed to squeeze out a slight smile on its face. To think its goal had already. No, Yuji raised his hand, extending his index and middle fingers toward the cursed spirit in front of him, forming a hand sign. I am just me, you. What does that mean? He is just him. Could it be that the person controlling this body right now is Yuji Itadori, and not Sukuna? Jago widened its eyes. In less than 0.2 seconds, it sensed the cursed energy within Yuji rising. Moreover, what is with this quality? Both are water, but a fire hose and a high-pressure water jet can both spray a target, yet the latter can cut through steel plates. What Jago felt at this moment was the sharpness of cursed energy compressed to its absolute limit. Having lived for so long, it had only ever felt this level of cursed energy density from one person, Yuji Itadori. Fu. Yuji felt incredibly exhilarated at this moment. If his original cursed energy was just a small stream, then the cursed energy Sukuna provided him was an ocean. Indeed, the Jago in front of him had the power of 8 or 9 of Sukuna's fingers. But for Yuji to defeat it, the cursed energy of just one finger was enough. Dismantle. I'm going to die. The moment Yuji raised his hand, this thought poured over Jago's head like a bucket of ice water. As the strongest curse born from humanity's fear of volcanoes, this was the first time it had experienced this level of fear. Jago's body moved before its brain. It subconsciously turned sideways and retreated backward. And in that less than half a second, squish, a sharp pain came from its right shoulder. Jago looked down and saw its right arm sliding off its torso. The cut was neat and smooth. The arm fell onto the riverbank with a dull thud. However, Jago didn't look at that severed arm. All its attention was drawn to the sight behind it. A deep trench had cracked open in the ground at some point. Starting from where Yuji stood, this straight trench continuously extended forward. The ground revealed the dark gray rock layers beneath. The river was severed. The broken branches on the bank tilted to the sides, emitting a continuous cracking sound. The trench extended all the way to hundreds of meters away. Jago turned its head, looking along the direction of the trench. Its eyes widened more and more. The cold sweat on its face increased. The end of the trench was the edge of the curtain barrier. At the edge of the barrier was a small hill. The hill was sliced in half. TCH. Jago clutched its severed arm. The situation had reversed in the blink of an eye. Is this Sukuna, this overwhelming power, clearly with only a meager amount of cursed energy, yet it can? I said earlier. Yuji spoke. The boy's voice was calm. I am not Sukuna. Strange. What is this feeling? Thump, thump, thump. The boy's heart was beating unusually fast. Every cell in his body was greedily absorbing Sukuna's cursed energy, just like a dry riverbed absorbing the first rain. A feeling of excitement. Because his entire body was filled with Sukuna's cursed energy, Yuji seemed to be influenced by this cursed energy mixed with Sukuna's aura. I see. Yuji looked at Jago, then took a step toward this curse. I clearly intended to slice you in half just now, but you actually managed to dodge it. The curse born from humanity's fear of volcanoes, Yuji spoke, his voice unhurried. Indeed has some skills. Perhaps your talent is even stronger than Mahito's. But unfortunately, the pink-haired boy put his hands in his pockets and walked unhurriedly toward Jago. The unknown often makes people feel fear. Facing the boy strolling leisurely in front of it, Jago subconsciously took a step back. What's wrong? Yuji caught the fear in its expression. Didn't you say you were going to end my life here? The pink-haired boy stopped in front of Jago, looking down at the curse beneath him from above. Jago widened its eyes. A familiar sentence structure. Sukuna's vessel, you indeed have some skills. To reach the level of exercising Mahito and Hanami after only being in contact with Jujutsu for a few days. No wonder Mahito got beaten into depression by you. Perhaps your talent is greater than Mahito's. It's just a pity that your life ends here. The volcano-headed curse immediately recalled the words it had previously said to Yuji Itadori. And now, Yuji Itadori returned those two sentences to it verbatim. TCH. Ghetto, you bastard. Didn't you say Sukuna couldn't possibly think highly of this brat Yuji Itadori, and was just playing with him? Why is Sukuna's cursed energy appearing on Yuji Itadori now? Jago cursed angrily in its heart. You merely obtained Sukuna's power. Jago gritted its teeth. The voice squeezed out from between its teeth. Don't get too carried away. You little brat. It quickly jumped backward, putting several meters of distance between itself and Yuji, then raised its arms. Countless ember insects immediately appeared behind the volcano-headed curse. The number this time far exceeded the previous ones. The overwhelming swarm of insects emerged like a plague of locusts. Each one was the size of an adult's head. The buzzing sound of their vibrating wings overlapped. The sound alone was enough to strike terror. Not only that, small volcanoes bulged from the ground beside Yuji. Their craters bent at unnatural angles, all aiming in his direction. I won't show mercy this time. I'll blast you into smithereens all at once, Yuji Itadori. Several volcanoes erupted simultaneously. Countless pillars of fire surged toward Yuji. The sky full of ember insects also pounced on him at this moment. With this attack, even Sukuna shouldn't think about. The moment this thought formed in Jago's mind. Squish. Jago suddenly felt its vision blur. It subconsciously looked down and found that the arms it had originally used to cast the technique had disappeared. The sky full of ember insects lost their target. The volcano attacks hit nothing but air. Following Yuji's cursed energy, Jago turned around and found Yuji standing not far behind it. In the boy's hands, he was holding its arms. Under Jago's shocked gaze, Yuji casually tossed its arms aside like throwing out trash. Meanwhile, inside Yuji Itadori's body, Sukuna was crossing his legs, sitting leisurely on the skulls, watching everything outside. Well done, brat. This talent, this ability to control cursed energy. Even though your total cursed energy is far weaker than the opponent's, you can produce a suppressive effect. You really haven't disappointed me. Sukuna curled his lips, revealing a wicked smile. Anyway, he and Yuji already had an agreement. No matter what, he was the one profiting immensely. He could comfortably watch the show and enjoy the pleasure of desserts and games. Let me see more. Yuji Itadori. Chapter 42. Jago, don't be afraid, kids, watch my domain expansion. Even a cursed spirit would care about having its arm cut off, right? Yuji raised his hand to wipe the blood from his cheek. He turned sideways and looked at the shocked Jago. Cold sweat rolled down the forehead of the volcano-headed curse. Its defensive capabilities could not be considered strong among curses. The reason it was the strongest existence among the 4 special-grade curses was due to its massive cursed energy reserves and powerful output capabilities, as well as its unparalleled speed. Its base state alone could rival Naoya Zenin with stacked projection sorcery, and the high temperatures it released could deal fatal blows to carbon-based lifeforms. However, in contrast, its defense was inferior to Hanami's. Yuji's attacks could easily deal fatal damage to it. So fast, his cursed energy reserves were clearly still not much. Not even a fifth of its own. So why was he able to undergo such an earth-shattering change in such a short time? Was all of this purely because of quality? Yuji's cursed energy utilization efficiency was comparable to a fierce god. In this field, he had already reached the level of Ryomen Sukuna and Satoru Gojo. Because he had only started practicing jujutsu for less than 5 days, coupled with his inherently thin cursed energy reserves, his terrifying strength had been greatly restricted. Now that he had obtained Sukuna's assistance, even if he only received the cursed energy of 1 finger, the terrifying aspect of Yuji was completely displayed before Jago's eyes. Just like the instant a beast imprisoned in a cage for years is finally released. Gulp. Jago's Adam's apple bobbed. Regardless, in the ensuing time, it could not take another attack from Yuji Itadori. Jago's focus became highly concentrated. Because it knew that if it didn't do this, it was highly likely to die. Ha. The volcano-headed curse's breathing couldn't help but grow heavy. Focus. I must focus. Cursed energy had regenerated its arm in an instant. Jago gathered all the cursed energy in its body into these newly formed arms. Maximum output. I'll burn you to ashes. Crimson pillars of fire erupted from Jago's palms, expanding the moment they left its hands. With Jago as the starting point, the monstrous flames spread out into a fan-shaped sea of fire directly in front of it. The color of the flames changed from crimson to orange-yellow, and the outermost edges even began to turn blue. It was as if it wanted to devour everything. The ground beneath their feet began to melt, but Yuji unhurriedly raised his hand, converting his cursed energy into blood. A scarlet sea of blood unfurled in front of Yuji, forming a towering wall. Hiss! The flames crashed against the sea of blood, but this time, the wall made of blood was no longer suppressed. As the waves of fire rose higher and higher, the sea of blood stacked up layer by layer until the two completely cancelled each other out. Steam engulfed the entire riverbank. The white mist was so thick that even the ground beneath their feet couldn't be seen. Using the steam as cover, Jago once again summoned countless ember insects to fly toward Yuji. Over a dozen small volcanoes also burst from the ground, aiming at Yuji in the mist. "I'll use this to stall you." The swarm of ember insects rushed into the mist from all directions. The volcanoes erupted with flames. While stalling Yuji, Jago channeled cursed energy into its legs and leapt high into the distant sky. Below were the intersecting pillars of fire and the shockwaves from the ember insects' explosions. It raised its arms and roared at Yuji below. "Even if you used Sukuna's power, there's no way you can take this move." A meteor was forming. The outer shell of the meteor was covered in raging flames. Orange yellow light leaked from the cracks, as if magma was rolling inside. The immense pressure seemed to suck away the surrounding air, parting the mist beneath it. At the same time, Yuji had already cleared out all the ember insects. He looked up, staring expressionlessly at the blinding meteor above. Maximum meteor. By the time Jago called out the name of the technique, the meteor's radius had reached nearly 100 meters. The flames were left behind by the meteor, dragging into a long tail. Looking up from the ground, it looked like a real shooting star crossing the sky. Yuji didn't dodge or evade. He raised his right arm. Blood seeped out from his pores, quickly solidifying on the boy's arm. Relying solely on dismantle and cleave would probably not be enough to deal with such a massive object, not to mention that the density and power of this meteor were far higher than it appeared on the surface. However, Shrine was not Yuji's most powerful output method. The blood, highly compressed to its absolute limit, gradually enveloped Yuji's arm completely. To deal with this thing, he had to use his maximum output blood armor combined with Black Flash. At the same time, Jago swung its arms, violently hurling the meteor above its head toward Yuji below. Black Flash, a special strike that can only occur when the delay between a physical hit and the impact of cursed energy is within 0.000001 seconds. If the thickness of the blood armor was added as an obstacle, the difficulty of landing a Black Flash would undoubtedly multiply. But Yuji was confident he could land a Black Flash. He absolutely could, and easily at that. When the meteor completely obscured Jago's figure and was mere inches away from Yuji, the pink-haired boy bent his knees, lowering his entire body. Then, he punched upward. Boom! Black Flash, with the surface of Yuji's fist as the center, spider web-like cracks instantly spread across the entire surface of the meteor. Violent cursed energy passed through the blood armor and was injected into the interior of this meteor by Yuji. Rumble! At this very moment, the entire meteor was sliced into countless irregular fragments. The fragments were shattered again by the intense impact the moment they disintegrated, finally turning into a sky full of debris flying into the air. Jago's eye widened abruptly. How is this possible? Jago, who was confident it could deal with Satoru Gojo, simply did not believe that there was truly a human in this world capable of doing this. But it knew it had no time to be shocked. The volcano-headed curse's gaze rapidly swept its surroundings, searching for Yuji. Is this guy hiding in the rubble? Below? Behind? Or to the side? No, none of those. Above, however, Yuji was one step faster. Using the debris as cover, before Jago could lock onto his position, the boy had already arrived above the volcano-headed curse's head. Jago wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Bang! Yuji kicked it heavily in the face. Jago's body flew straight toward the ground like a missile. Boom! The ground caved in under the tyrannical impact, forming a circular crater over 5 meters in diameter, scattering dust and smoke. Yuji looked down at the rising dust and gracefully landed on the ground from the air. Because he used the highly compressed blood armor to strike a Black Flash earlier, this caused an error of less than a few milliseconds in his judgment of the cursed energy impact. Coupled with the fact that executing a Black Flash with a leg is harder than with a dominant hand, his kick just now failed to trigger a Black Flash. However, taking that blow must have been very unpleasant for Jago. Ghetto, you are a fucking bastard. I'm definitely going to settle the score with you when I get back. Jago lay flat on its back in the large crater Yuji had smashed it into, cursing furiously in its heart. Saying Sukuna and Yuji were just playing around, and that Yuji wasn't stronger than it yet. This guy is clearly absurdly strong, okay. Damn it. The dust and smoke were gradually clearing. Jago staggered to its feet from the bottom of the crater. Even its maximum output technique, Maximum Meteor, couldn't do anything to Yuji Itadori. At this point, there was nothing left to say. Right now, Jago only had one path to choose, and that was. Yuji had clearly sensed Jago's intention. The curse and the boy raised their hands and formed hand signs simultaneously. Domain expansion. Domain expansion. The ground beneath Yuji's feet seemed to turn into a swamp. Black cursed energy spread outward from where he stood like a spring. Countless animal skulls rose from beneath his feet, followed immediately by the emergence of a giant shrine. A pitch-black barrier condensed above Jago's head, then formed a hemisphere, completely enveloping everything around the two of them. Malevolent Shrine. Coffin of the Iron Mountain. Chapter 43. The End of the Battle. Domain expansion. Constructing an illusory barrier using cursed energy and imbuing one's innate technique into this barrier. Enemies within the domain are subjected to Sur-Hit and Sur-Kill effects. Among all registered modern sorcerers, excluding Yuji and Kenjaku, only 4 sorcerers have mastered this ultimate technique, including 3 special grade sorcerers. Because constructing the barrier and imbuing the technique for domain expansion consumes a massive amount of cursed energy, the originally cursed energy deficient Yuji couldn't use it. However, with the cursed energy given to him by Sukuna, this problem was finally resolved. The interior of Jago's domain looked like purgatory. The surroundings were composed of enclosed brownish volcanic rock. The surface of the rock was covered in irregular, curved patterns, with magma flowing continuously. The shrine behind Yuji was completely enveloped by Jago's domain. The vermilion torii gate stood in the center of the magma, illuminated brightly. When 2 sorcerers expand their domains simultaneously, the Sur-Hit effects within the barrier cancel each other out, creating a stalemate. Just like now. Is this Sukuna's domain? You brat, you can actually even use Sukuna's innate domain. Jago originally thought it could gain an advantage in terms of domains because, according to Kenjaku, this brat had only been in contact with Jujutsu for about 5 days. It was absolutely impossible for him to learn a top-tier skill like domain expansion. Could it be because he's influenced by Sukuna's cursed energy? But even if this brat has Sukuna's cursed energy, constructing a domain still requires a foundation in barrier techniques, doesn't it? Regardless, Kenjaku, you fucking lied to me again. Jago gritted its teeth. It felt its domain and Yuji's domain engaging in a tug of war. The Sur-Hit effects of both sides cancelled each other out, creating a temporary stalemate. And since it couldn't win in terms of domains, it meant everything was back to square one. Jago needed to inflict heavy damage on Yuji within the domain to win this battle. But this was too difficult. Cold sweat broke out on Jago's face. It raised its hand and pointed at Yuji again. Countless ember insects flew toward the pink-haired boy, and small volcanoes bulged from the pitch-black rock walls once more. You should know by now that this won't work on me, right? The corners of Yuji's mouth curled up slightly. Using the same trick over and over again. Even I'm getting bored. He was now certain that even with the cursed energy of just one finger, he could completely overpower Jago, who had the strength of 8 or 9 of Sukuna's fingers. Swarms of mosquito-like insects lunged at Yuji. The latter sighed softly, slowly raised his right hand, and swiped outward. Dismantle. Boom. The swarms exploded before they could even get close to Yuji. The flames spewing from the small craters were even cleaved apart by the invisible slashes released by the boy. Damn it. Seeing this, Jago wanted to increase its cursed energy output. But what it didn't know was, Malevolent Shrine, unlike ordinary enclosed innate domains, didn't require a barrier as an outer shell. It was a divine technique akin to painting directly on the sky without a canvas. Indeed, within the barrier of Coffin of the Iron Mountain, Jago and Yuji's Sur-Hit effects were in a stalemate. But the effect of Coffin of the Iron Mountain couldn't reach outside the barrier, while Malevolent Shrine, being an open barrier domain, could continuously use dismantle and cleave to attack the outer shell of the Coffin of the Iron Mountain barrier during this time. The maximum range of the Sur-Hit effect was a 200-meter radius. To prevent catching the surrounding students in the crossfire, Yuji adjusted the barrier's range to within a 50-meter radius. crack, and at this moment, what Jago inside the barrier didn't know was that the outer shell of its domain was gradually failing to withstand the pressure from the outside. Cracks spread from above in all directions until they covered the entire barrier. Bang! What? Under Jago's shocked gaze, its domain shattered at the sound. Sparse fragments of the barrier's outer shell scattered in midair like broken glass, and were then sliced into even finer powder by the slashes of malevolent shrine. Squish! The moment the domain shattered, dense, fine cuts began to appear on Jago's body. At the same time, Yuji opened his palm, 5 fingers naturally extended. A fluid-like mass of flames appeared in his palm. Open. After using a domain, the innate technique experiences a brief, technique burnout, just like an overheated generator needing to cool down. At this moment, Jago could no longer mobilize its own technique and could only use cursed energy for simple defense. Realizing this, Yuji used this technique of Ryomen Sukuna's, crowned with the title, Flames of Certain Death. The boy raised his hands, making the gesture of drawing a bow and releasing an arrow. The ground, which had already been leveled by malevolent shrine, was ignited by raging flames once again. The dancing firelight caught the curse's eyes. At this moment, Jago actually closed its eyes subconsciously. The domain was shattered. It had suffered a complete defeat against Yuji Itadori in this domain battle. It had already lost. Is this my end? Jago's mind was unusually clear at this moment. It understood. Currently experiencing technique burnout and within the opponent's domain, it had absolutely no chance of survival. Therefore, Jago had completely given up on any pointless struggle. How embarrassing, to actually lose to a brat like this. But even if I could make it back alive, I wouldn't know how to face Hanami and the others. I'm sorry, Hanami, Mahito, Dagon. I've let you down. Yuji Itadori is simply too strong. I even feel like he hasn't used his full strength yet. You guys have to live on, and continue fulfilling our grand ideal. As for me, I'll have to leave this world before you. Goodbye, everyone. The fire arrow in Yuji's palm was released. The ground left a charred trail where the flaming arrow passed as it shot straight toward Jago. Open, wasn't particularly fast, but relying on the dust created by the slashes, its range could cover Yuji's entire domain. And just as Jago had closed its eyes to accept its fate, a white shadow suddenly rushed into Yuji's domain and stood in front of Jago. Boom! The sky-filling flames exploded in front of Jago, but the volcano-headed curse only felt the approaching intense heat. The severe pain didn't reach its nerves. It opened its eyes in confusion, only to find a completely pale curse spreading its arms, standing in front of it. Hanami, hiss, uck. Hanami's wail rang out as the soaring flames completely enveloped its body. However, this curse spontaneously exhausted its last bit of cursed energy to condense a wall made of countless intertwined tree roots, separating Jago from the flames behind it. Why? Jago's eyes widened. Why are you here? I should have let you escape. Judging by the time, you should be far away from Jujutsu High by now. Why on earth would you? Jago, listen to me. You are stronger than me. Much stronger than the 3 of us combined. Hanami's back was already starting to melt under the intense heat. The tree roots shielding Jago were gradually turning into charcoal. But this curse stubbornly squeezed out the last ounce of cursed energy in its body, continuously sprouting new plants from the ground to firmly separate Jago from the crimson flames. And I am the weakest among us. You are undoubtedly more capable of realizing our ideals as curses than I am. I didn't want to just run away like that. Because I was worried about you, I turned back and stayed nearby, recovering my cursed energy while secretly observing. Besides, it's clearly because you transferred too much cursed energy to me earlier, that your own cursed energy is near depletion now, right? Mahito says you're hot-tempered, but I know, deep down, you care more about the safety of his companions than anyone else. Hanami's voice was gradually weakening. Its entire body was engulfed by the raging flames. You and Mahito, and Dagon, you all must live on well. Go quickly, the time I can buy for you is too short. Take our ideals with you. Jago. We promised to become the new humans together. After saying this, half of Hanami's body had already melted. But even speaking these words in such a ghastly state, it still made Jago feel a pang in its nose. Even though curses are born from humanity's negative emotions, they also possess human-like emotions. Hanami, we will meet again, in the wasteland 100 years from now. The moment Hanami's words fell, the ground began to tremble. As if some behemoth was about to burst from the earth, countless thick tree roots and plants shot up from the ground. These roots were thicker than any he had seen before, their surfaces covered in dense spikes. The plant roots grew wildly like living creatures until they almost pierced the sky. However, they didn't attack Yuji. Instead, they began to intertwine and overlap around the pink-haired boy, building a massive cage around him from all directions. Yuji frowned slightly. Against an attack of this level, malevolent shrines should have been able to slice them into pieces instantly. But just as this thought arose in his mind, he realized that the dense slashes inflicted by the domain did indeed cause some damage to these plant roots, but the cuts were very shallow. Within a few short seconds, these wildly growing tree roots had closed above his head. The sky-blotting branches and leaves completely blocked the last rays of the setting sun. From the outside, Yuji looked as if he had been sealed inside a millennium-old tree. This isn't normal. Relying on his rich combat experience, Yuji quickly understood the reason. This guy can actually go this far. I see. Is it a binding vow? Burning all of its life force as the price, exchanging it for a brief burst of 300%, or even more of the technique's effect. But such an action was like a moth darting into a flame. Hanami wouldn't even need to wait for the damage from open to heavily injure it, it would die immediately on its own. Having figured this out, Yuji increased his cursed energy output efficiency. Crack. Following a crisp sound, the giant tree trapping Yuji in the center was sliced into countless pieces. However, before the sky full of wood chips and debris could fall from midair, they turned into ash due to the caster's death. Yuji followed the cursed energy trajectory and looked forward. The afterglow of the setting sun spilled onto the ground, dyeing everything golden red. Hanami was kneeling with its back to him under the setting sun, head bowed. Its body, which had completely turned to charcoal, was burning fiercely. Ninjago's cursed energy had completely disappeared from Yuji's perception range. Hanami clearly felt its body dissipating. Its consciousness gradually blurred. On its deathbed, it felt the surrounding scenery distorting and blurring like a water-soaked painting. When Hanami came back to its senses, it found itself standing in a pure white space. It looked around in surprise for a moment, then realized Yuji was standing behind it. The pink-haired boy's expression was very calm. The way he looked at it wasn't like looking at an enemy. A cursed spirit actually has the resolve to sacrifice itself for a companion. Yuji asked. Hanami was stunned by this question. Curses are born from humanity's negative emotions, so they have the ability to sense malice. Hanami looked at Yuji's amber eyes. Those eyes were incredibly clear, containing no mockery, no contempt, and not even hostility. In my understanding, curses are born from humanity's negative emotions. They are pure evil, and existences that should be exorcised. But just now, when you saved Jago, I saw something in you that is the same as humans. Bonds, friendship, these are all things I thought could never appear in curses. Hanami was silent for a while, then slowly spoke. Every curse among us has its own name: Hanami, Jago, Dagon, Mahito. Like humans, we also have our own emotions. Hearing this, Yuji continued. Because you want to become humans. Ah, to be precise, you want to replace humans. Take our place, right? Regarding this point, Yuji could also glean a thing or two from what Mahito had told him in his past life. That's right, Hanami nodded. This is our mission, so you must exorcise us, and we must kill you. There is no possibility of reconciliation between us. No room for coexistence. It's either you die, or we perish. Hearing this, Yuji suddenly revealed a smile. Ah, indeed. The smile on the pink-haired boy's face, like his amber eyes, carried not the slightest hint of contempt or hostility. Although we stand on different sides, I think what you did just now was right. What did you say? Hanami was stunned. I said, your action of saving your companion was right. Yuji repeated, his tone serious. No matter your identity, no matter what side you stand on, sacrificing yourself to protect someone important, this action itself is not wrong. I admire you, Hanami. You admire me, but I'm a curse. Hanami's body trembled slightly from excitement. Yes, Yuji nodded. I think you did well. Even as a human, I have to praise you. Hanami was silent for a while. From its birth until now, this was the first time it had experienced the feeling of being acknowledged by a Jujutsu sorcerer. Is that so? Thank you, Yuji Itadori. In reality, Hanami was still kneeling on the now leveled ground, head bowed. Its body had almost completely burned to ashes. Yuji stood before its corpse, hands clasped together, and bowed slightly. It's a pity I couldn't keep that guy named Jago here. Ah well, but managing to do this much should barely be considered a passing grade. I can't even imagine how much Gojo-sensei is going to brag about me when he gets back. For the sake of your hard work, I'll pray for you a little. I hope you fare well in hell. However, cursed spirits cannot reincarnate as humans. I hope you don't reincarnate again and disrupt the peace of the human world. After saying this, the pink-haired boy turned and left. A warm breeze blew past. Hanami's corpse completely dissipated with the wind. Chapter 44, The End of the Exchange Event and the Madman. Because the function of the curtain was to completely isolate the environment inside and outside the barrier, the time in the outside world was actually still midday. And because Yuji deliberately controlled the range of Malevolent Shrine, his battle with Jago didn't cause any casualties, nor did it cause large-scale destruction to Jujutsu High's training grounds. Since only a few semi-grade 1 and grade 2 curse users were assigned to fight the other students, aside from a few students including Todo suffering some injuries, everyone else was basically unharmed. The curse users defeated by Yuji and Aoi Todo were also imprisoned in Jujutsu High's secret room for interrogation. A cause for celebration, the afternoon sun shone through the window onto the smooth floor of the hospital room. The injured students had been treated promptly by Shoko Ieri. Several Kyoto school students gathered in the room. Perhaps because this incident didn't cause any serious consequences, the young people gathered together, chatting happily. So, Yoshino, you really saw a meteor. Nobara Kugasaki, with a large bandage on her face, sat on a small stool in the hospital room, resting her chin on her hands, asking with a curious expression. Because she and Panda were originally at the edge of the barrier and had already been injured in their fight with the Kyoto school members, by the time Yuji and Jago started fighting, the two had already left the curtain. Junpei, Yoshino and Panda, arms crossed, leaned against the wall. Megumi Fushiguro and Maki Zenin lay in their respective beds. Toge Inamaki pulled up a chair and sat in the corner, while Yuji sat by Megumi's bed. Yeah, I saw it. Originally, I was fighting Kasumi Miwa from the Kyoto school, but halfway through chasing her, I suddenly heard continuous explosions coming from the distance. After a while, I saw a giant meteor crashing toward the center of the barrier from afar. At the time, I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was the end of the world. Junpei scratched the back of his head. And then, when that meteor crashed down, it suddenly shattered into pieces. Because the whole ground was shaking at the time, I was standing at the edge of the barrier and couldn't even stand steady, so I didn't see clearly either. But it was Itadori-kun fighting the curse at that time, right? Junpei deduced. Could it be that Itadori-kun shattered the meteor with one punch? Seriously, Nobara let out a gasp of amazement. Probably, because Itadori had just rescued me and Meika-senpai at that time. Megumi, lying in bed, chimed in. Itadori, were you right under there at the time? Hey, wait, it wasn't that exaggerated. Yuji quickly waved his hands. Although it was the truth. But in reality, today's battle record was achieved by relying on Sukuna's power, so he was a bit embarrassed to admit it. What do you mean not that exaggerated? Didn't you continuously blow up 2 special grade curses? Hurry up and describe the process to satisfy my curiosity. Yoshino said there were meteors and volcanoes where you were, fighting like filming a movie. While we only fought some curse users on our side. No sense of presence at all. Nobara said excitedly. I like stories where the hero fights the villain to protect their companions and ultimately defeats the big bad villain supported by their strong willpower. Don't you guys think that's so cool? However, what Nobara didn't expect was, in reality, Yuji, enhanced by Sukuna's cursed energy in that battle, acted more like the big bad villain than Jago did. There's really nothing much to describe. Inameka-senpai and Todo from the Kyoto school also contributed a lot. And I also got injured. Just healed with the reverse curse technique. Anyway, it's good that everyone is safe and sound. Yuji shook his head. Hey, Itadori, has anyone ever told you that you're a very boring person? Salmon. Yuji's sweat dropped slightly. He tried to change the subject. Although you say that, things weren't easy on your end either, right? It was alright, Panda answered for Nobara. Those curse users were only around grade 2, and their strength was average. Kugasaki and I coordinated and quickly took care of them. But because we both suffered considerable injuries, we left the barrier first. What about the Kyoto school? Yuji asked again. Panda paused, looking toward the door of the hospital room. That Kamo guy was injured by Hanami and is still lying in the next room. Todo is also quite badly injured. As for the others, they only suffered minor injuries and have already been treated. Oh right, and Kasumi Miwa. Panda's expression was a bit subtle. She seemed to have been chased by Junpei all the way and eventually fell into the river. She was fished out by the auxiliary manager. She didn't have any injuries, just a bit spooked. After Panda finished speaking, all eyes in the room turned to Junpei. Junpei awkwardly scratched his cheek. I just wanted to stop her from going back to support her companions at the time. After seeing the curtain in the sky, she actually told me about the curse users, but I thought she was using some trick to fool me. It wasn't until later when I saw the meteor that I realized she was telling the truth. I didn't mean to hurt her. Alright, we all know. Yuji smiled. You did well, Junpei. Being able to hold off a grade 3 sorcerer in your first real combat is already very good. Really? Junpei's eyes lit up slightly. Indeed. Maki, sitting on the outer bed, chimed in. Having that courage is the most precious thing. Yuji nodded. That's right, keep up the good work, Junpei. I will. Junpei nodded forcefully. A smile appeared on his face. The atmosphere in the hospital room became relaxed. Everyone chatted animatedly, sharing various things that happened during the exchange event. Click. At this moment, the door to the hospital room was pushed open from the outside. Yo, long time no see, students. Your teacher is here. Satoru Gojo strode in, carrying several paper bags in his hands. Brought you some care packages. Fruit platters, everyone gets one. Ah, Gojo-sensei, salted roe, yay. Satoru Gojo placed the paper bags on the table, then casually leaned against the windowsill next to Yuji. Nobara couldn't wait to step forward, pulled out a box of fruit platter from the paper bag, opened the lid, and looked. Wow, high-end stuff. Gojo-sensei, you're finally being generous for once. What do you mean finally being generous for once? Satoru Gojo raised an eyebrow, looking dissatisfied. Your teacher has always been very generous, okay. Gojo-sensei, if you keep being this generous, we'll love you even more. Nobara speared a piece of cantaloupe and stuffed it into her mouth, speaking indistinctly. Forget it, your love can't feed me. By the way, what were you guys chatting about just now? I heard you chattering like a wet market from the hallway. Megumi, lying in bed, answered flatly. Talking about Itadori's battle with that special grade curse. Hearing this, Satoru Gojo chuckled at Yuji. That's true, I was blocked outside the curtain earlier and couldn't witness Yuji's battle. Gojo-sensei, you're so useless. Nobara complained. Ha ha ha, that's because our Yuji is too strong. I didn't even have a chance to show off. Satoru Gojo didn't mind being talked to like this by his student. Although he did have a tiny bit of regret. After all, wasn't the original script supposed to be him finally breaking the curtain in a moment of crisis, then charging into the grounds like a locomotive, killing 5 grade 2 curse users in 3 seconds? And when the 2 special grade curses tried to run, he would blast them directly with a purple like a long-range mortar. How did Yuji steal all his thunder? But this feeling of regret was only a tiny bit. Satoru Gojo was very gratified by Yuji's growth. He saw the makings of a great emperor in Yuji Itadori. But it seems that besides me, there are still people among the students who can take the lead. Satoru Gojo's mouth curled up uncontrollably. Someone who truly cares about their students can't hold back a smile. He raised his hand, showing his palm to Yuji. This was an all too familiar gesture. Yuji immediately understood. He got up from beside the bed, then stepped forward. Smack. The teacher and student shared a high five. In his past life, a high five was the gesture he and Satoru Gojo used to confirm their mutual understanding. You did very well, Yuji. Satoru Gojo's voice held undisguised pride. Yeah, at this moment, Yuji was also very happy. For some reason, compared to the acknowledgement of others, Satoru Gojo's acknowledgement made him even happier. In his past life, he was too weak. Most of the praise he received was superficial, like how parents give encouragement to strengthen a child's heart even if the child hasn't done anything. But right now, Yuji could feel that Satoru Gojo's praise for him was genuine. But next time you encounter enemies of this level, remember to leave one for your teacher to show off, otherwise your teacher really won't have any presence. Satoru Gojo said with a grin. Okay, definitely next time. Yuji smiled and nodded. Megumi rolled his eyes at Satoru Gojo. Gojo-sensei, the situation is urgent. You should be more serious. And the winner of this exchange event hasn't been decided yet. With things turning out like this, the team battle probably can't continue either. What's the higher-ups' plan? Hearing this, Satoru Gojo suddenly revealed a meaningful smile. Well, about that, your teacher has already thought it through. Thought what through? Megumi asked. Since it's a team battle meant to foster team spirit, then any sports involving teamwork can be included. But as for the specific event details, it's a secret. Just say it, don't waste time. Megumi clearly didn't want to banter with him. Not telling, just say it. The sunlight from outside the window spilled in, illuminating the entire hospital room brightly and warmly. Satoru Gojo leaned against the windowsill, looking at the harmonious students. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Suguru, did you see? My students are all outstanding. I see. Kenjaku said with a smile. On the outskirts of Tokyo. Inside a Japanese-style room. In a dimly lit Japanese-style room, the sliding paper door was half open. The afternoon sun seeped in from outside, leaving a sliver of light in the shadows on the floor. Kenjaku sat cross-legged by a low tea table, resting his chin on one hand and holding a cup of cold tea in the other. On the wall in front of him sat a color TV screen. The screen was playing footage of the battle between Yuji and Jago, transmitted back by Mekamaru. Yuji walked out from the giant tree sliced into pieces. Hanami knelt on the riverbank, its body turning to ashes in the flames. Bang! Jago, sitting across from him, slammed the table violently. The teacup jumped, tea splashed onto the table. Is that your fucking reaction? Veins popped on Jago's face. A wisp of black smoke rose from its volcano head. Hanami is dead, what else? Kenjaku spread his hands, looking innocent. Should I cry, or should I scold you? Jago, I warned you long ago not to drag out the fight. Grab the fingers and run. You wouldn't listen. You insisted on meeting Sukuna's vessel. Now look, Hanami died to save you. Are you satisfied? Jago was silent, its teeth grinding audibly. Because what Kenjaku said was all true. It indeed didn't listen to advice. It indeed underestimated the enemy. It indeed caused Hanami's death. That's also because you didn't tell me why Sukuna would choose to cooperate with Yuji Itadori. I didn't expect that brat to be that strong. You didn't expect it. Kenjaku put down his teacup, crossed his arms. His tone still calm. Indeed, I also didn't expect why an arrogant guy like Sukuna would cooperate with Yuji Itadori. But I told you, Yuji Itadori's talent far exceeds your imagination. I also told you that he could master Sukuna's technique at any moment. I even told you not to fight him head-on. How many times have I told you? Jago, 3 times, 5 times, or 10 times? Which time did you listen? You're right. After a moment, Jago released its clenched fists. Although Kenjaku also had problems, it should bear the main responsibility. I caused Hanami's death. Yes, that's right. Kenjaku nodded, his tone calm. He didn't care about the curses, lives at all. He only treated them nicely to use them. You caused Hanami's death, just like Mahito almost caused his own death. You curses always think you're invincible. Think humans are nothing but ants. Think even Satoru Gojo is nothing special. And the result is you got beaten to a pulp by a brat who's been enrolled for 5 days. Jago didn't retort again, but this is fine. You should have learned your lesson now, right? Jago. You better not disobey my orders again in the future. Otherwise the next one to die won't be Hanami. Jago, you understand what I mean, right? Jago didn't say anything more. It silently got up, then pushed the door open and left the room. Kenjaku glanced at Jago's ashen expression, then watched the curse slowly walk toward the setting sun. Even a guy like this feels pain from the death of a companion. A mere curse. Don't make me laugh. It wasn't until Jago completely disappeared from his line of sight that Kenjaku unhurriedly got up. He turned off the TV and then closed the door to the room. Well, at least Sukuna's fingers and the first 3 death painting wounds were all brought back. Although because Jago fled in a panic, the scroll used to keep the fingers was accidentally sliced open by Yuji Itadori's dismantle. When Kenjaku checked the scroll, he found that one finger was missing due to the damage to the scroll. But he guessed that finger probably fell on the way back, or in Jujutsu High, right? But it didn't matter. He now had a total of 10 Sukuna fingers on hand. Excluding the 5 that hadn't been found yet, the rest were in his hands. This way, he could proceed with the next step of his plan. However, compared to these, there was something he cared about even more. That cold-blooded and ruthless Sukuna actually formed a connection with Yuji Itadori. This was something he had never anticipated. Quote. Hee. Kenjaku sat cross-legged on the tatami, silent for a long time, then. HMPH, haha. Ha 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 ha. Kenjaku clutched his lower abdomen. He threw his head back, laughing loudly at the ceiling. His laughter grew more and more excited. More and more high-pitched. Ha 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 ha. Sukuna, you actually cooperated with a human. Bang, bang, bang. He laughed so hard he rocked back and forth, tears seeping from the corners of his eyes. He laughed until he was sprawled on the tea table, his palms slapping the tabletop. The teacup was jolted over. Tea splashed everywhere. You are the king of curses. Ryomen Sukuna, you actually, ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Kenjaku laughed until he was out of breath. His fingers gripped the edge of the table tightly. Ha 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 ha. Interesting. Too interesting. I've never encountered something so interesting. Kenjaku was still laughing. He laughed until his stomach started to hurt. He curled up by the tea table, one hand clutching his abdomen, the other hand still slapping the ground. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 45, Kenjaku's Plan in Esports. Honestly, it's been a long time since I laughed this hard. It's just like when a background extra manages to create the most hilarious moment in a show. It's truly exhilarating. Kenjaku stood up, dusted off his kasaya, righted the tipped teacup, casually wiped the spilled tea, and slid the door open to leave. As expected, plans can never keep up with changes. Kenjaku walked down the corridor for a long time, passed through several doors, bypassed a few rockeries, and finally arrived at a secluded courtyard. The courtyard wasn't large, the ground was paved with fine white gravel, and a taihu stone stood in the middle, covered in moss. In the corner was an old cherry blossom tree, its trunk twisting toward the sky, its branches and leaves sparse. Mahito crouched under that cherry blossom tree. His long blue hair trailed on the ground, his hair and body covered in fallen leaves and dust. Kenjaku walked up to Mahito and looked down at him. Hey, Mahito, how long are you going to stay depressed here? Quote. No response. Mahito, I'm talking to you. Quote. Still no response. Kenjaku was a bit speechless. Hanami was burned alive by Yuji Itadori. If Hanami hadn't sacrificed itself, even Jago might have died. And Mahito, one step ahead of them, had the living daylights beaten out of him by Yuji Itadori. Seriously, it's only been a few days. One by one, they just love throwing themselves at Yuji's feet. Kenjaku let out a long sigh. Although it was a good thing that Jago was willing to rein itself in, losing Hanami and Mahito at once still made him feel very uncomfortable. Stop running away, Mahito. Kenjaku's voice turned cold, losing its previous frivolity and mockery. Hanami is already dead. You don't want to be the second one to die after Hanami, do you? If you guys still want to achieve your previous goal, listen to my arrangements from now on. Quote. Mahito finally reacted. He raised his lifeless eyes and looked at Kenjaku. Listen closely, Mahito. Kenjaku held up one finger. You've seen Sukuna's fingers, so you should know the principle of incarnation, right? Swallowing a cursed object, and then the body is taken over. It's as simple as that. From the golden age of Jujutsu 1,000 years ago to the present, Kenjaku had made binding vows with many strong individuals who felt regrets about their lives. He helped turn these people into cursed objects and stored them until the right time. Then he would feed these cursed objects to modern humans, allowing these strong individuals to incarnate like Sukuna and gain a second life. But the condition was that these strong individuals had to participate in the culling game he hosted. All humans who swallowed the cursed objects would be incarnated without exception. But because the brain structures of these incarnated humans were different from sorcerers, and their strength as vessels was not enough to withstand the souls of these strong individuals. Even after incarnation, these strong individuals would only fall into a coma and couldn't fully awaken. To wake them up, he needed Mahito's idol transfiguration to alter their brains into sorcerer structures, granting these humans the strength to become vessels. That's why Kenjaku found Mahito. The culling game still required long-term planning, and Kenjaku wasn't in a hurry. The most pressing issue to solve right now was his severe lack of capable subordinates. "I need you to do some things for me, Mahito." What Kenjaku wanted to do was use Mahito to release some of the strong individuals originally slated to be resurrected in the culling game ahead of schedule. Among them was the strongest sorcerer from 400 years ago, who slaughtered all the strong individuals in Japan during his youth. The Thunder God, Hajime Kashimo. Besides him, he also wanted to release some strong individuals with the strength of grade 1 sorcerers to serve as his subordinates, such as Reggie Star, and so on. That guy Hajime Kashimo is very interested in Sukuna, so he will definitely be a very good asset to me. In addition, Hanami is dead, and its position needs to be filled by another curse. Hundreds of years ago, I used a woman in the Kamo clan for an experiment, making her give birth to human curse hybrids. These are now the death painting wombs. Later, I believed my understanding of curses and humans had reached perfection, so I tried to create an artificial curse. Although its power was too overwhelming and it suffered from severe mental disorders, making it difficult to control, so I sealed it away. But the current Yuji Itadori makes me feel threatened. So it's time to take some action. Evening. Several black luxury sedans carrying students from the Tokyo and Kyoto schools drove smoothly on the road. Nobara Kugasaki sat with the other Tokyo school students. Kiyotaka Aijichi was driving attentively. Satoru Gojo sat in the passenger seat, chattering endlessly. Yuji, Megumi Fushiguro, and Junpei Yoshino squeezed together in the back seat. Yuji sat by the window, watching the scenery flash by. Junpei listened attentively to Satoru Gojo's speech. Megumi, still recovering from his injuries, leaned against the window with his eyes closed, resting. "So I'm saying," Satoru Gojo spoke, "sometimes I really feel like Yuji is like those reincarnators in novels who travel back from the future with memories. Could it be that he really is one?" The air in the car fell silent for a moment. "Nani?" Yuji's eyes widened abruptly. "Weren't we talking about the exchange event just now? Why did the topic suddenly shift to this?" Yeah, Junpei chimed in enthusiastically. "Now that you mention it, Gojo-sensei, I also think Itadori-kun is very much like a reincarnator in a light novel. Look, he's only been in contact with Jujutsu for a few days, yet he knows everything, does everything well, and his combat experience is so rich that he doesn't seem like a rookie at all. And the feeling he gives off is extremely reliable, like he's experienced a lot of things." Seeing this, Satoru Gojo turned around and continued smilingly. "Oh, Yoshino-kun, do you also read light novels?" Junpei answered. "I loved reading them in middle school, but not so much now. If Itadori is a reincarnator who traveled back with future memories, everything would make sense. Because he is simply absurdly strong." Right, your teacher feels the same way." Satoru Gojo nodded. "How could Gojo-sensei know? Can the Six Eyes even see this kind of thing?" No, Gojo-sensei must just be joking. Am I right, reincarnator Yuji Itadori?" Satoru Gojo turned his head and stared straight at Yuji. A drop of cold sweat rolled down Yuji's forehead. Although he knew Satoru Gojo was joking, he was sweating bullets. Ha. Yeah, Yuji let out a dry laugh. This sweating appearance didn't look normal no matter how you looked at it. But considering Yuji was never good at lying. And what's a reincarnator? He's just a hard-working sports student. Yuji, is it hot in the car? It's okay. Satoru Gojo turned to the driver's seat. Aijichi, please turn down the AC a bit. Yes, Gojo-san. After receiving Aijichi's reply, Satoru Gojo turned back to look at Yuji. But just as he was about to speak, Megumi's voice rang out. "I say, Gojo-sensei, you said you were taking us to a team battle with the Kyoto school, but where exactly are we going? Can't you give us a hint?" Megumi was a bit exasperated. "Phew, saved. Good thing Fushiguro is here." Yuji wiped the sweat from his face. "HMPH, I already said I can't. Besides, we're almost there." Satoru Gojo snorted lightly. The corners of his mouth curled up. Just thinking about what they were going to do next made him want to laugh. The black luxury sedan slowly pulled over to the side of the road. Satoru Gojo was the first to push open the car door. He stepped onto the sidewalk with his long legs, hands in his pockets, looking up at the three-story building in front of him. A smug smile on his face. We're here, we're here. Everyone get out. The students from the Tokyo and Kyoto schools emerged from the black sedans one after another, standing by the road looking around, then followed Satoru Gojo's pace. An internet cafe. Before entering, Megumi looked up at the giant neon sign above his head. The corners of his mouth twitched twice. Gojo-sensei, why did you bring us to an internet cafe? HMPH. After leading the students into the empty internet cafe lobby, Satoru Gojo turned around to face the group of confused students. With his arms crossed, he enthusiastically presented his theory. Ahem, good question, Megumi. He cleared his throat. Because Megumi had complained to Satoru Gojo earlier that Yuji and Ryomen Sukuna playing games in the middle of the night kept him awake, Satoru Gojo had a sudden inspiration. Esports is also a sport. Satoru Gojo spread his arms, as if embracing the whole world. Your teacher has already rented out this entire internet cafe as the competition venue in advance. And think about it, physical confrontation is so tiring. Running, jumping, fighting, what if you get injured again? Playing games is different. You can compete while sitting down. How easy and enjoyable. Moreover, the purpose of a team battle is to foster teamwork. Doesn't esports require exactly that? This is the perfect way to cultivate your team spirit. Therefore, your teacher grandly announces here. The upcoming team battle will be conducted in a 5v5 team format. After Satoru Gojo's words fell, the atmosphere in the internet cafe lobby fell silent. Everyone looked at Satoru Gojo with a, "Are you fucking kidding me?" expression. No, seriously, you're turning my Jujutsu high into a vocational school. Having LAN parties at an internet cafe. Chapter 46, The Reincarnator and Esports. The purpose of the team battle is to foster teamwork. Doesn't esports require exactly that? Require it, yes. Cold sweat broke out on Nobara's face. Then there you go. Satoru Gojo waved his hand dismissively, directly interrupting Nobara's words. Furthermore, games can also foster camaraderie among you. Fighting and killing hurts harmony. It's decided then. I've played quite a few games, so I'm decent at them. How about I act as the captain later? Junpei volunteered, but I haven't really touched games since I was little. Nobara rubbed her chin, pondering. Me neither. I'm a cursed corpse, even holding a mouse is difficult. Panda chimed in. Salmon. Inamaki followed suit. As for Megumi and Maki, it goes without saying. The former lost his father when he was young, and his stepmother left soon after. Raised only by his sister, naturally he hadn't touched many computers. The latter grew up in a feudal clan and naturally had no access to video games. In other words, among the Tokyo school members, only Yuji had some understanding of games. However, Yuji recalled the scene from late that night a few days ago. You're so fucking trash, you stinking brat, a guy who can solo a special grade curse getting killed by a chicken 4 times in a row. I can't watch this anymore. Sukuna was completely fuming. Give me control of the body. Let me play. It seemed Yuji's gaming skills weren't that great either. Well, not only the Tokyo school, but the Kyoto school guys haven't touched games either, so this is absolutely fair for both sides. Although the Tokyo school side was a bunch of misfits. The Kyoto school side was pretty much the same. The only one who might have played video games, Aoi Todo, didn't come because of his injuries. Follow me, I'll show you around the place first. Your teacher has already prepared dedicated equipment for you. Alright, let's go. Mai Zenin shook her head. Although it was a bit sudden, what Satoru Gojo said did make some sense. Momo Nishimiya looked helpless. Mekamaru and Norito Shikama were silent. Kasumi Miwa followed nervously behind the group. Do your best, me. I definitely can't hold everyone back this time. Kasumi thought to herself. The venue Satoru Gojo provided was a large private room, symmetrically arranged with 2 rows of esports desks and chairs in the center. The group approached and began familiarizing themselves with the equipment under Satoru Gojo's guidance. Although they hadn't touched many video games, they had at least used computers before. Because Panda couldn't hold a mouse and couldn't fit into the narrow chairs, and Toge Inumaki had difficulty communicating, only the remaining Tokyo school members could participate. On the Kyoto school's side, only 5 people came. So Mai Zenin, Kasumi Miwa, Norito Shikamo, Mekamaru, and Momo Nishimiya participated. By the way, Yuji, you can't let Sukuna out this time. Before the start, Satoru Gojo specifically sought out Yuji and told him. Oh my, after all, you play games regularly, so you're already much stronger than those guys from the Kyoto school. Megumi said Sukuna's gaming skills seem pretty good. If we let Sukuna play too, it would be too much like cheating. So, for the sake of fairness. Alright, while everyone was getting familiar with the venue and equipment, Yuji stood in front of the sink, looking at himself in the mirror. The internet cafe's restroom wasn't large, but it was clean and tidy. The white tiles gleamed slightly under the warm yellow light. The boy stared at himself for a while, then took out a Sukuna finger from his pocket. Completely brownish black, with blackened nails. It looked like a specimen cut from a 1,000-year-old corpse. He had found this earlier at the exchange event grounds. It seemed to have dropped from that cursed spirit named Jago. He didn't expect to get some loot drops from fighting. This Jago's drop rate was really high. However, Yuji also realized the purpose of these 2 special grade curses coming to Jujutsu High. They came to steal Sukuna's fingers and the death paintings, right? In his past life, Yuji was still a hothead. Although he could guess that Kenjaku must have sneaked into Jujutsu High and done something, he didn't know the exact time. During the exchange event back then, he was solely focused on beating up Hanami, and Satoru Gojo cleaned up the mess later. As for the invasion of the storehouse, it was discussed in a meeting between Satoru Gojo and the higher UPS. Due to pride, the higher UPS never let the students know the cause and effect of this incident. However, that old fox Kenjaku probably wants me to collect all 20 fingers as soon as possible. After all, Sukuna's complete resurrection brings him nothing but benefits. Kenjaku's side inherently intended to feed all the fingers to him. Moreover, this way, his eldest brother Choso and his other 2 brothers could also return to his side. Although the process was wrong, the result was actually good. Yuji opened his mouth, then put the finger in and swallowed it. Gulp. The next second, violent cursed energy exploded within his body. But before anyone outside the restroom could notice, this cursed energy was suppressed by Yuji and then completely absorbed by Ryomen Sukuna. The pitch-black cursed marks had barely appeared before vanishing instantly. The 5th one. With one finger down, his total cursed energy increased slightly. Although Yuji had quickly risen to a grade 1 sorcerer relying on his past life experience, he still had a long way to go before reaching special grade and defeating Kenjaku. After all, he had only been seasoned for 5 days. For Kenjaku, who wanted to initiate the Shibuya incident to seal Satoru Gojo, there was still a lot of preparatory work to do. So the upcoming time was left for him to continue training and becoming stronger. Yuji didn't have the shrine technique etched into him yet, but that didn't matter. After the exchange event, he planned to further develop blood manipulation. In his past life, he was too strong. So strong he had no opponents. In the end, he only researched a fully automatic guided piercing blood to clear out grunts. Theoretically, the versatility of blood manipulation was the highest among the big 3 families' techniques. Effective at both long and close range, the blood could transform into various shapes. Most importantly, his current precision in cursed energy manipulation had reached an extremely terrifying level. Give him a few more days to practice, and he couldn't even imagine how tricky blood manipulation would become. Yuji nodded at the mirror, then turned and pushed open the restroom door. At the same time, Nobara's shout came faintly from the hallway, "Itadori! Are you done yet? The match is about to start." Coming, Yuji replied, quickening his pace toward the private room. However, just as he walked out of the restroom, before he could take 2 steps, he heard a deafening roar from the internet cafe entrance. "Brother!" Bang! The door was pushed open forcefully. Yuji turned his head in surprise and saw a figure standing at the doorway, back to the light. White bandages wrapped around his entire face, leaving only his eyes and mouth exposed. His left arm was in a sling across his chest. He looked like a mummy that had escaped from an Egyptian pyramid. "Toto!" Yuji widened his eyes. "How could you guys not include me in such an important team battle? Don't forget, I'm the best friend who swore to fight side by side with you." Aoi Toto said as he walked quickly toward Yuji. However, His mummy-like appearance made Yuji subconsciously take 2 steps back. Whoa, you scared me. Toto, why are you here? Weren't you badly injured? A mere flesh wound, nothing to worry about. Aoi Toto stepped forward quickly and placed his right hand on Yuji's shoulder. The doctor said I need to rest for a week, but that's for ordinary people. I am Aoi Toto, a grade 1 sorcerer, your best friend. Let alone playing a team battle, even if you asked me to fight a special grade curse right now, I'd still do it. The corners of Yuji's mouth twitched slightly. He felt that in Aoi Toto's current state, let alone fighting a special grade curse, even walking was a struggle. Toto, your arm, just a decoration, then the bandages on your body. Absolutely no problem. Just as Yuji felt speechless, Satoru Gojo's voice came from behind him. Yo, Toto. Satoru Gojo leaned against the door of the private room, asking in confusion. Why are you here? Weren't you lying in the infirmary? A mere flesh wound, not worth mentioning. Gojo-san, please let me participate in the match. I want to fight side by side with my brother. Aoi Toto shook his head forcefully. Ah, but your injuries. No problem. Aoi Toto interrupted him decisively. Even with only 1 hand left, I can take on 10. Satoru Gojo was silent for a moment, then smiled helplessly. Alright, since you put it that way, we'll add you. But you have to ask your teammates if they agree first. No need to ask. Aoi Toto waved his hand dismissively. I am Aoi Toto, a grade 1 sorcerer. From today onward, I am the captain of the Kyoto school team. Anyone with objections, step forward. The private room went quiet for a moment. No one stepped forward to object. Clearly, with Aoi Toto's interpersonal skills comparable to an overripe banana, no one dared to pay him any mind anymore. Very good. Aoi Toto nodded in satisfaction, then strode toward the private room. Leaving only Yuji and Satoru Gojo standing dumbfounded in the wind. Meanwhile, in a ward at the Tokyo City Central Hospital. Lying on the hospital bed was a thin, black-haired man with graying temples. He was covered in IV tubes, surrounded by various medical machines. A cursed spirit and a man in a kasaya stood on either side of him. Mahito placed his palm on the black-haired man's forehead. Idle transfiguration. A mass of purple cursed energy rose from the curse's palm. A moment later, he removed his hand. Is it done? Yeah, very good. Thanks for your hard work, Mahito. It's nothing. I was just wondering. Mahito's hoarse and deep voice reached Kenjaku's ears. Can this man help us defeat Yuji Itadori? Maybe. Kenjaku spread his hands. While the two were talking, the man on the bed finally showed some movement. First was his hair, starting from the roots, the black faded like an ebbing tide, replaced by a striking shade of blue. The originally thin body began to expand rapidly. Muscles bulged as if inflated, stretching the hospital gown tight and propping up the blanket high. The gaunt cheeks became sharply defined. Cheekbones prominent, jawline sharp as a knife. The originally plain facial features became fierce and flamboyant under this new skeletal structure. The incarnation was completely finished. This cursed energy. Mahito was startled and subconsciously took a step back. What a strong oppressive feeling. Stronger than any grade 1 sorcerer he had ever seen. Perhaps even rivaling Jago. Was this the strongest sorcerer from 400 years ago, who slaughtered all the strong individuals in Japan? The Thunder God, Hajime Kashimo. Hajime Kashimo opened his blue eyes, groggily catching sight of the unfamiliar hospital ceiling above him. He gritted his teeth. Veins popped on his forehead. His hands gripped the bedsheets tightly. His face showed a pained expression. A strong wave of dizziness washed over him, causing his vision to black out in waves. Being suddenly pulled back to reality from a 400-year slumber felt like a drowning person being violently yanked out of the water. His lungs burned as if they were going to explode. His eardrums buzzed. His brain felt like it had been stuffed into a tumbling washing machine. This is... Hajime Kashimo struggled to prop himself up from the bed. The IV tubes on his body were torn loose by his movements. All falling off. He lowered his head, panting heavily. Kenjaku stood by the bed, arms crossed. A smile of a successful scheme on his lips. Hajime Kashimo, a powerhouse who made even him retreat 400 years ago, was now about to join his ranks and become one of his pawns. This way, his plan would be much easier. Hajime Kashimo, you're awake. I fed your cursed object to this human body. He's been lying here for over 20 years. Just now, we completely finished your incarnation. How does it feel to live a second life? Kenjaku asked. Hiss. Ah. Hajime Kashimo hadn't recovered from the faintness and pain just now. He looked up, squinting at Kenjaku. In his grayish-blue eyes, besides pain, there was also vigilance. Kenjaku, it's you, it's me, you bastard, did you use me to vent your lust? Hajime Kashimo asked while panting heavily. Question mark quote. Kenjaku's smile froze. A question mark slowly formed over his head. What do you mean, vent your lust? What did you say? The corners of Kenjaku's mouth twitched twice. At the same time, he suddenly felt a gaze fall upon him. He turned his head. Mahito was standing by the bed, staring straight at him. His eyes carried undisguised disgust. That gaze seemed to say, you humans are really perverted, even more perverted than me. Did you break our agreement? Huh. As soon as these words came out, the muscles on Kenjaku's face instantly twisted together. What is this guy talking about? What do you mean, vent your lust? He made it sound like Kenjaku took him to bed. Even if Kenjaku was perverted, even capable of taking over Yuji's mother's body, he wasn't that perverted. At the same time, he felt Mahito's gaze become even more disgusted. No, I didn't do anything. Even Kenjaku, an old fox who had lived for 1,000 years, was momentarily stunned by Hajime Kashimo's shocking words. Then what the hell is going on here? What did you do to my body? Hajime Kashimo's tone became irritable. A flash of killing intent passed through his grayish-blue eyes. Because he had been on good terms with Kenjaku 400 years ago, Hajime Kashimo was very aware of Kenjaku's perverted interests and character. He feared that during his slumber, he had also been put on Kenjaku's experimental table for some unknown secret experiments. Kenjaku quickly figured out the possible reason for Hajime Kashimo's anger. He wiped the cold sweat from his face. Hajime Kashimo, I didn't do anything to you. The changes in your body are just a normal reaction to incarnation. Bullshit. Chapter 47, Electronic Sports. The atmosphere in the private room gradually became lively. 10 computers were divided into 2 rows, facing each other. The players had successfully taken their seats. Satoru Gojo created a game room and pulled all 10 people in. During the warm-up phase, everyone began practicing basic shooting. Alright, the match is about to start. Everyone take your seats. Satoru Gojo stood between the 2 rows of computers, holding a megaphone. Nobara sat at the far edge. Her hand gripped the mouse, swiping it twice on the mousepad. I wanted to say this earlier, but why is this mouse so light? It feels like it'll crush if I squeeze too hard. Squeeze lightly. This mouse is worth over 30,000 yen. Equivalent to about 200 United States dollars. Nani? As a country girl, Nobara was shocked. Junpei sat in the very middle. Nobara sat on the far right. Yuji sat between them. He looked at the familiar game icon on the screen. His feelings were mixed. CS. Go. This game again. He only remembered that he was terrible at it. The kind where he couldn't even kill someone standing completely still in front of him. Although he wasn't good at any games. He was just an ordinary sports student, after all. Sigh. If we were competing in pinball skills, I would definitely leave everyone in the dust. Unfortunately, Satoru Gojo wouldn't let them play anything involving gambling. No, I can't embarrass myself again this time. Yuji took a deep breath and gripped the mouse tightly. Although Sukuna can't play, I've played a few times at least. It shouldn't be worse than the first time. Brother. A loud voice came from ahead. Yuji looked up and saw Aoi Todo, wearing headphones and with bandages all over his face, sitting directly opposite him. Todo, why are you cosplaying Mekamaru's true body, Kokichi Muda? Just now, because Aoi Todo insisted on participating, Yuji had helped heal his injured left arm with the reverse curse technique, restoring his normal mobility. Aoi Todo was now full of confidence. Don't be fooled by the fact that I, like you, look like a burly sports student. Aoi Todo stared at Yuji, then revealed a confident smile. I specifically set up a computer in my dorm to watch VTuber live streams. I'm also very knowledgeable about games. Although you might be a bit stronger than me in terms of strength, you can't beat me in games. Hearing this, Yuji also smiled. Is that so? Not necessarily. Although I don't play very well, I won't give up easily. Very good. Aoi Todo laughed heartily. That's my brother. Come on, let's have a hearty showdown. Invisible flames seemed to ignite in their eyes. Sitting next to them, Nobara watched this scene. The corners of her mouth twitched twice. How can these two make playing a game feel like a shonen anime? Salmon. Toge Inumaki nodded in agreement. Panda stood behind the 5 players, waving 2 colorful glow sticks in the air. Tokyo School, go, Tokyo School, for the win. Salmon, Salmon. Where the heck did you get those glow sticks? Nobara turned her head abruptly and complained. I prepared seriously. Panda puffed out his chest, looking proud. Although I can't play, as the cheerleading captain, I can still play a role. Inumaki, you join in too. He handed 2 glow sticks to Toge Inumaki. The latter took them, turned on the colorful lights, raised them above his head, and waved them vigorously twice. Salmon, Salmon, good, the spirit is up, quote. 2 weirdos. Nobara's sweat dropped. Kugasaki, Maki and Megumi haven't really touched video games, so we're relying on you for this game. Don't hold us back. Panda said, so annoying, you furry, I won't lose to them. Watch me get first place on the team. Nobara said as she put on her headphones and started practicing her aim. Very good, nice momentum. Panda nodded in satisfaction. Satoru Gojo stood between the 2 rows of computers, arms crossed, watching this harmonious scene. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. All right, quiet down. He cleared his throat and announced. The match is about to start. I'll explain the rules first. 5v5, custom room, best of 3. The losing team has to treat the winning team to a meal. No problems, right, no problems, everyone answered in unison. Very good. Satoru Gojo nodded, then took a step back, raised his right hand, and swiped down. Then, let the match begin. Quote. In the corner of the private room, 3 folding chairs were lined up. Utahime Iori, Kyoto School Principal Gakuganji, and Tokyo School Principal Masamaiki Yaga sat together. This is too unserious. Utahime couldn't help but speak up. Changing the exchange event to playing games, what exactly is in that Gojo's head? Probably cotton candy. Gakuganji's voice was hoarse and low, making it hard to tell if he was mocking or stating a fact. Quote. The corners of Utahime's mouth twitched twice. Principal Gakuganji, aren't you going to discipline him? I can't, he's the strongest. That excuse again. Utahime sighed, feeling her temples throb. Tokyo School Principal Masamaiki Yaga, wearing sunglasses, put down his teacup. Looking at the 10 students wearing headphones and intently staring at their screens, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. However, bringing the students out for some entertainment occasionally isn't bad. After all, even though they've experienced so many bloody battles, they're ultimately still just a bunch of kids. With an average age of not even 18. So on this point, I agree with Satoru. Hearing this, Utahime was silent for a moment, then let out a long sigh. Well, I suppose. After all, being a jujutsu sorcerer was a profession that constantly advanced over the mountains of corpses and seas of blood of their companions. The companions sitting here laughing today might meet at a funeral tomorrow, or maybe they wouldn't even have a funeral. Complaining about tiring training today, they might not even have the chance to complain tomorrow. Therefore, moments like this were especially precious. Smile more while you can. After all, no one knows if they'll be able to smile next time. Kids, enjoy yourselves. There won't be many days like this. Utahime's gaze then fell on Yuji. However, this child seems to have abilities far exceeding the other students. It was he who single-handedly saved many companions during this exchange event. If it weren't for him, this scene full of laughter might not exist. And this child has a pretty good personality. Unlike that Satoru Gojo. Perhaps he possessed the potential to grow into a powerhouse like Satoru Gojo. When that time comes, with 2 powerhouses holding the fort, maybe the pressure on jujutsu sorcerers will lessen significantly. In the future, there will be many more scenes like this. Quote. The 10 students successfully entered the game. The map was Dust 2. The Tokyo school side started as the attackers, the terrorists. Their goal was to plant the bomb in the designated area and detonate it. In the first round, the pistol round, Yuji stared at the equipment menu and finally chose the $700 Desert Eagle. A weapon with immense power. A normal pistol usually takes 5 to 8 shots to kill an armored counter-terrorist, but the Desert Eagle only needs 3. Though its recoil is extremely unstable. However, what Yuji didn't know was that someone who buys a Desert Eagle in the pistol round is generally called an idiot. Our spawn positions aren't good. Let's go through mid to a short. Junpei said. Did anyone buy a smoke grenade? If the terrorists want to go to a short through mid, it's best to buy a smoke grenade to block the line of sight from mid doors, otherwise they'll be intercepted by counter-terrorists camping there. I'll do it. Megumi spent $300 on a smoke grenade. He looked down at a smoke grenade tutorial on his phone while controlling his character to stand on the slope at T-spawn. Smoke. The character in the game threw a smoke grenade toward the sky. Yuji and the others filed out of T-spawn and headed to a short. However, just as Nobara exited T-spawn and was about to rush to a short, she found that the smoke grenade Megumi threw at mid-doors was misaligned. Although the smoke covered most of the area, it left a large gap, which was practically the same as not throwing one at all. Bang, bang, bang. This gave my Zenin, who was crouching in the sand behind mid-doors, an opportunity. The USP in the counter-terrorist's hand rang out continuously. Ultimately, Nobara was taken out by a headshot from my quote. Nobara widened her eyes, staring at the computer screen in disbelief. She immediately took off her headphones, stood up, and angrily yelled at Megumi, who was sitting on the far left. Fushiguro, the gap in your smoke grenade is big enough to open a milk tea shop. How did you throw it? I don't know either. I just learned it. Megumi's face darkened. Clearly, as a computer illiterate, he hadn't fully understood the aiming point for this smoke grenade. Ho ho, quite exaggerated. Satoru Gojo watched their gameplay with a grin. Alright, Kugasaki-san, don't be angry yet. Watch us play. Junpei quickly smoothed things over. The remaining terrorists charged toward a site, successfully taking out Momo Nishimiya and Aoi Todo on a long slope. However, Maki was also killed by a counter-terrorist counterattack. Junpei arrived at the site and planted the bomb. The bomb has been planted. The situation became a 3-on-3 retake for the counter-terrorists. The 3 counter-terrorists rotated from CT spawn to the slope, while Megumi and Junpei crouched on the site. Bang, 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 quote. After an exchange of fire, Megumi and Junpei fell, but they also successfully took out Mekamaru and Mai. Only Kasumi Miwa and Yuji remained on the field. Miwa, quickly defuse the bomb. Which key do I press? Press E. Strange, why is there no response? Hold it down. Oh, I see. Kasumi crouched on the ground, pointing her defuse kit at the bomb. And at this moment, Yuji was crouching at a short. From this angle, he could perfectly see Kasumi defusing the bomb. Itadori, go, do your best, Itadori. Panda cheered from behind. Yuji took a deep breath, then stepped out from a short, aiming his crosshair at Kasumi crouching on the ground. Aim first, then shoot. Bang, 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 bang. Perhaps because the Desert Eagle's recoil was too high, and you can't shoot accurately while moving. The bullets left 6 bullet holes on the box, accurately drawing a human outline around Kasumi's character. 7 shots, only 1 hit, a master of drawing outlines. Quote. Yuji widened his eyes. Are you kidding me, bro? On the screen, his character was reloading. The action of pulling the bolt seemed exceptionally long in slow motion, but Kasumi had already finished defusing the bomb. The bomb has been defused. Yay! Kasumi bounced up from her chair excitedly, raising her hands above her head. I defused it, yay, we are the champions. Even though they only won 1 round. Miwa, you're so strong. Damn, taking down the grade 1 sorcerer Yuji Itadori. Let those who said Kasumi Miwa was playing, run, Kasumi Miwa, run, speak up. Mai stood up excitedly from her seat and hugged Kasumi. Because her sister Maki was on the opposing team, she was the one who wanted to win the most. Hehe, I was just lucky. The atmosphere on the Kyoto school side was very lively. But back on the Tokyo school side. Yuji scratched his cheek awkwardly. It's just giving away 1 round. Fushiguro and I shouldn't be considered war criminals. Quote. No one spoke. Nobara raised an eyebrow. Junpei silently lowered his head and rubbed his forehead. Maki leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. Megumi turned his head to look out the window. Probably not. Yuji was nervous. What do you think? Nobara stood up abruptly, leaning on the table, leaning forward until her face was almost touching Yuji's. Itadori, how can you be so bad at this? Meanwhile, inside Yuji Itadori's body. PFF'd. Ha 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 ha. Sukuna laughed so hard he rocked back and forth. Stinking brat, weren't you pretty accurate when throwing punches? Why can't you do it with a mouse? Are your hands growing out of your eyes? Or are your eyes growing out of your hands? Ha 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 ha. Interesting. Too interesting. Yuji Itadori, you are truly the most interesting human I've ever seen. Laugh, 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 what's so funny? Feeling Sukuna's mockery within him, Yuji rolled his eyes at Sukuna in his mind. No, he had to play seriously. He really had to show these Kyoto school guys what a gaming master was. Chapter 48. Burned out, leaving only snow-white ash. The hotel room was not large. The curtains were drawn tightly, with only the bedside lamp providing light. Hajime Kashimo sat at a table, clutching a hamburger in his hand, stuffing it into his mouth in large bites. He swallowed a mouthful of hamburger, then picked up a piece of fried chicken, biting into it with a crunch. This is good. This is delicious too. A 400-year slumber made everything in the modern world feel novel to him. Especially the food. How is it? Modern food. Kenjaku stood not far beside him, staring at Hajime Kashimo with interest. Truly interesting. Much better than in our era. 400 years ago, where could you find such good stuff? Hajime Kashimo praised. Kenjaku smiled upon hearing this. He walked over to a chair in front of Hajime Kashimo and sat down. So, he crossed his legs and intertwined his fingers, resting them on his thigh. Don't you want to ask me why I resurrected you early? Hajime Kashimo paused his eating. He looked up, staring at Kenjaku with his azure eyes for 2 seconds, then lowered his head and continued gnawing on the fried chicken in his hand. It's probably nothing good anyway. You never do anything without a purpose. I knew that 400 years ago. Hee. Kenjaku chuckled, not denying it. You're right, I do have a purpose. And this purpose concerns you. Oh, like you, Sukuna has also incarnated. But his vessel is unusual. I originally just considered him a tool, a vessel to resurrect Sukuna, but that guy's talent far exceeded my expectations. Kenjaku said with a grave expression. He exorcised a special grade curse on his first day of contact with Jujutsu. Alright, stop listing off your menu. Hajime Kashimo waved his hand, interrupting Kenjaku. Just say it straight, what do you want me to do? Kenjaku said. Hajime Kashimo, haven't you always wanted to fight Sukuna? Now is your chance. Sukuna's vessel has currently consumed 5 fingers. Although there's still a ways to go before full resurrection, Sukuna's consciousness has awakened. Our goal is also to fully resurrect Sukuna, aligning with yours. But because Sukuna's vessel is too powerful and has killed many of my subordinates, my plan has been hindered. Hajime Kashimo was silent for a moment. He stared at Kenjaku for a while, then revealed a mocking smile. Kenjaku, you want to use me to do your bidding? I can find Sukuna's vessel myself. I don't need your help. Kenjaku shook his head. Finding Sukuna's vessel is useless. Sukuna doesn't have control over that body, and Sukuna's vessel is a righteous boy who has already mingled with the Jujutsu sorcerers. Besides, Satoru Gojo is there. Satoru Gojo, the strongest modern sorcerer, a man who can rival Sukuna. Bullshit. Hajime Kashimo snorted coldly, crumpled the napkin he used to wipe his mouth into a ball, and casually tossed it aside. Since 400 years ago, cursed spirits and Jujutsu sorcerers have been continuously weakening. They're probably getting even weaker now. The so-called strongest modern sorcerer is highly likely nothing special. Kenjaku didn't argue, simply following Hajime Kashimo's line of thought. But with that guy around, your duel with Sukuna can't take place, can it? I need you to cooperate with me to initiate the Shibuya incident, seal Satoru Gojo, and snatch Sukuna's vessel to our side. Kenjaku's ultimate goal was to have everyone participate in the culling game. He originally thought Yuji Itadori was just an insignificant existence. Even if left to train at Jujutsu High, he wouldn't affect the plan and could even contribute some cursed energy to the culling game. But looking at it now, he had miscalculated. Hajime Kashimo was a very strong fighter. Not only could he restrict Yuji Itadori, but he could also help seal Satoru Gojo. Why should I listen to you? Hajime Kashimo asked. I can make Sukuna's vessel defect to our side while avoiding Satoru Gojo. Why don't you hear my plan before making a decision? Quote. Speak. Hearing this, a wicked smile appeared on Kenjaku's face. Hundreds of years ago, I successfully created an artificial cursed spirit. It's a masterpiece even more successful than the death painting wombs. Its strength was comparable to Jago's, and the potential of its innate technique was extremely high. Unfortunately, because that cursed spirit had a violent temper and suffered from severe mental disorders, making it difficult to control, I sealed it away. I named it Shanmei. The innate technique of the artificial curse, Shanmei, created by Kenjaku hundreds of years ago, was a superior substitute for Hanami's plant manipulating innate technique. The technique of this curse is extremely compatible with my cursed spirit manipulation. By combining them, we can achieve very unexpected results. Meanwhile, inside the internet cafe. Alright, it's just a pistol round. Everyone adjust, we'll get it back next round. Despite witnessing a wave of terrible gameplay from Yuji, Junpei still comforted everyone. Although the counter-terrorists won the last round, the terrorists received a money bonus for planting the bomb, so the Tokyo school members had enough money to buy rifles this round. Yuji bought a $1,800 Galil AR. Like the last round, they chose the tactic of attacking a short. This time, Megumi finally threw the mid-doors smoke grenade correctly. When the group rushed a short together, mid-doors was completely filled with smoke. The smoke grenade is finally thrown well this time. Nobara glanced in Megumi's direction. That's more like it, at least the milk tea shop is closed. So annoying, it's my first time playing, okay. Megumi complained. The 5 terrorists arrived at a short one after another. Junpei took the lead, followed closely by Yuji. Nobara and Maki provided support in the middle, while Megumi covered the rear. Everyone, let's take control of a short first. Be careful of people coming from behind and lower B tunnels. Junpei said in a low voice. However, just as they arrived at the corner of the A short stairs. Whoosh, 3 counter-terrorist figures flew out from the top of the A short stairs. Because of the elevation difference in the terrain, from the perspective of Yuji and the others, the 3 counter-terrorists positioned higher up really looked like they were flying. Yuji's pupils shrank violently. Mom, they're flying. CS.GO rifles require the character to stand still to maintain accuracy, but submachine guns do not. He saw that each of the 3 held a very unique-looking firearm. Didn't expect this, did you, Itadori? Aoi Todo's sonorous voice came from afar. Priced at $1,400, not only is it cheap and good, but you can also run and gun freely. The recoil is extremely stable, requiring almost no recoil control. Suitable for all beginners who know absolutely nothing about FPS games. A submachine gun with a super large 64-round magazine. The PP Bison, we'll take you all down at once. Before he finished speaking, gunfire erupted. Rat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. The 3 Bisons fired simultaneously, bullets raining down like a storm. Junpei, who was at the very front, was picked off mid-air before the 3 even landed. Bang! Junpei widened his eyes, startled by the inexplicable kill sound effect. Nani? Nobara quickly moved her mouse, locking her crosshair onto one of the counter-terrorists still in mid-air. Bang 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 bang. She fired several shots, but the Kyoto school members seemed to have discussed it beforehand. The 3 characters moved back and forth, left and right, causing Nobara, who was unfamiliar with recoil control, to miss most of her shots. Instead, she was taken out by 2 headshots. The advantage of submachine guns is that you can run and shoot freely, while the rifles they held would spray bullets everywhere if they moved. Rat-tat-tat-tat-tat. The Bison bullets were still pouring down. All the terrorists at a short fell. Mai killed Maki and Nobara. Kasumi directly jump-shot Junpei. Todo sprayed Yuji to death. Ah, what exactly is going on? Yuji directly put on a mask of pain. How was that, Maki? This submachine gun tactic. After killing her older sister, Mai on the opposing team stood up from her chair and mocked. I actually got a kill too. I'm not the one holding everyone back anymore. Kasumi was also very excited. TCH, you just won 2 rounds. Nobara took off her headphones and shouted toward the Kyoto school's side. What are you so arrogant about? Just wait and see how we get it back later. Yeah, Panda chimed in. Salmon. Oh, is that so? Aoi Todo raised an eyebrow. Then bring it on. Let me see your strength. Bring it on. Nobara put her headphones back on, gripping the mouse tightly with both hands, her eyes burning with fighting spirit. Quote. An hour later, Nobara stared blankly at the game's end screen. Kyoto School 16-5 Tokyo School. The scoreboard and stats popped up simultaneously. Aoi Todo, 2,394. Kasumi Miwa, 2,163. Mai Zenin, 1,751. The three of them combined for 60 kills, completely crushing the Tokyo School's fighting spirit. As for the Tokyo School side, Junpei Yoshino, 311,612. 31 kills, 16 deaths, AKD ratio of nearly 2. Nobara Kugasaki, 14,193. Maki Zenin, 6,178. Yuji Itadori, 42,118. Although he had few kills, he had many assists. Megumi Fushiguro, 1216. His impact on the field was less than a chicken's. Quote. The atmosphere on the Tokyo School side could no longer be described as silent. Throughout the entire match, it was just Junpei desperately trying to carry the team of 4. The other 4 could only be described as non-human. Pre-match laughter. Ha ha ha, it's just playing games, we can definitely win. Mid-match boastful words. TCH, you just won 2 rounds. Just wait and see how we get it back later. Post-match silence. Quote. Nobara stared at the glaring 5 inches on the screen. Her lips parted slightly, then closed, opened again, and closed again. She was just about to say something to lighten the mood. After all, it was a best of 3. They still had a chance for a comeback. However, when her gaze fell on her companion beside her, she saw an astonishing sight. Junpei was sitting in his chair, hunched over, hands resting on his knees, head bowed, eyes tightly closed. His black bangs were soaked with sweat, sticking to his skin in clumps. His face was covered in fine beads of sweat, glistening under the internet cafe lights. He looked like he had just been carried out of a sauna. Junpei Yoshino was burned out. Even 31 kills couldn't carry them. Who exactly invented this game? Junpei maintained that posture, sweat dripping down drop by drop, as if shedding tears for his non-human teammates. Chapter 49, Double Agent. I announce, the winner of today's match is the Kyoto School. The match was over. The Tokyo School was cleanly defeated 20. After the first round ended, the 5-man team was already completely routed. For some reason, Kasumi Miwa, who came from a poor family and hadn't touched video games before, was unusually fierce today. Even though she played without any strategy or professionalism every time, her bullets seemed to have magic. Always accurately hitting the heads of Yuji and his team. And Yuji, the strongest among the 10, had the second to last KD ratio, with Megumi at the very bottom. On the contrary, Junpei and Kasumi both delivered MVP performances. This made Yuji feel very helpless. Maybe he really had no gaming talent. After all, if he didn't control his strength well, he could crush the mouse directly. Ahem, next is the award ceremony. Satoru Gojo held a tray he had snagged from the bar counter, on which several round objects wrapped in gold foil were neatly arranged. Quote. Gojo-sensei, aren't these chocolates? Yeah, gold medal chocolates, specially customized. Very expensive. Satoru Gojo said righteously. All right, next up are the students from the Tokyo School. Satoru Gojo pulled out several round objects wrapped in silver foil from under the tray. You guys get silver medals too. We don't want them. Damn it. Nobara protested. In the women's restroom, the faucet was running. Maki bent over, water droplets sliding down her cheeks. She looked up at the mirror, which reflected Mai standing at the door. You're not that great either, Maki. A familiar voice came from behind her. Maki didn't turn around, just closed her eyes briefly. Yeah, not that great, but you finally got to experience the fun of the outside world, right? Quote. What did you say? Mai was slightly stunned. Life isn't just about being humble and obedient. Staying in a garbage dump like the Zenin clan, we can't do anything. Maki turned around and looked at her sister. So forgive me, Mai. Quote. By the way, how is that young master who was beaten to a pulp by Itadori doing now? Maki suddenly smiled. I heard he's recovering at home and is too ashamed to see anyone. When Naobito Zenin went to see him, he wouldn't even open his door. He's probably locked himself away in depression. After all, his opponent was Yuji. It's already good enough that he didn't end up like Mahito. Is that so? The corners of Maki's mouth curled up slightly. That's perfect. She pushed open the door and walked out. In the men's restroom, the faucet was also running. Although I didn't participate, today was quite interesting. Norito Shikamo stood beside Megumi, arms crossed, leaning against the opposite wall. The Kyoto school members didn't have a great relationship originally and basically didn't talk much normally. But after this, everyone's relationship has improved. This harmonious scene surprised me a bit. Megumi glanced at him and remained silent for a moment. Trying new things occasionally is also good. How do you know if you don't try? Norito Shikamo didn't speak, quietly listening to Megumi. Like a bird in a cage, locked up since it was little, it will think the world is only as big as the cage. But one day, when the cage door opens and the bird gains freedom, it will realize that the sky is incredibly vast. Norito Shikamo sweat dropped. He understood Megumi was hinting at his situation of being in a feudal clan. Are you calling me out? Are you talking about me? I'm talking about everyone. Megumi looked up at Norito Shikamo. Including myself, including Itadori, including you. Although Itadori is Sukuna's vessel, he is getting better and better. He is willing to try, to believe, to build connections with the people around him. He doesn't lock himself in a cage just because the King of Curses lives inside him. At the Tokyo school, it seems like everyone revolves around Itadori. This is why he's so popular. I think this spirit is truly commendable. Norito Shikamo was silent for a while. You know, at the very beginning, he came to the exchange event with the intention of killing Yuji. You're right. Norito Shikamo shook his head and smiled slightly. Yuji Itadori saved a lot of people. If it weren't for him, many students from the Kyoto school would have suffered. That special grade curse's strength was too terrifying. No matter what, I have to admit defeat. That guy even uses blood manipulation better than me, the next clan head. He's absurdly strong, truly someone to look up to. Megumi glanced at him. The two nodded in tacit understanding. Let's go. My treat. Satoru Gojo stood at the entrance of the internet cafe and shouted inside, Yuji, hurry up, they left first. I'll have Eijichi wait at the entrance. Okay, Gojo-sensei, I'll be right there. Yuji replied but didn't move. The team battle was over. Only he and Mekamaru were left in the empty internet cafe, tidying up. Yuji had deliberately stayed behind. He had gone to great lengths to create an opportunity to be alone with Mekamaru, that is, Kokichi Muda. So, Yuji Itadori of the Tokyo school. What do you want with me? Mekamaru's green camera eyes stared at Yuji, who was sitting in front of him, scribbling on a piece of paper. The pink-haired boy then placed the piece of paper on the table and gently slid it toward Mekamaru with his finger. Mekamaru picked up the piece of paper and looked at its contents. I know you are a mole in Jujutsu High. I want to kill Suguru Geto. Cooperate with me. Be my double agent. If you do that, I'll help you hide your identity as a mole. In a secret room beneath a large reservoir on the outskirts of Kyoto. Kokichi Muda, covered in bandages and sitting in a bathtub full of nutrient fluid, widened his eyes. Not a single footstep or sound was leaked. You know perfectly well if you're hacking or not. He controlled Mekamaru to continue writing below the note. What do you want to do? Yuji replied, because you placed microcameras around me, I've been suspecting you for a long time. Mekamaru looked at the contents of the note and was silent for a while. That was something even Satoru Gojo didn't discover. How could this boy find out? Mekamaru wrote on the note. You're right, Suguru Geto placed surveillance cursed spirits in my room, so speaking rashly would expose our information. Yuji Itadori, you are very smart. Mekamaru's writing hand paused. His identity as a mole had been discovered. He was caught red-handed, so should he trust this boy? Through the microcameras, this guy usually had a gentle personality and got along with everyone. He didn't look like a bad person. But there's always a, what if? What exactly do you want me to do? I made a binding vow with Suguru Geto that we cannot betray each other. I don't know to what extent it would violate the binding vow, so unfortunately, I can't help you much. Mekamaru handed the note to Yuji, who pondered for a while. If that's the case, then it's impossible to have Mekamaru directly reveal Kenjaku's secrets. He then continued writing on it. Before every major operation by Suguru Geto, you can obtain all the intelligence. Try your best to notify me without violating the binding vow. I want to save people. If Suguru Geto makes a move, you only need to do one thing. Before every operation, go to the cafeteria and get me a bowl of seafood ramen. The definition of betrayal is very broad, but precisely because of its broadness, such an almost unrelated hint could slip through. However, if done too many times, the effect of the binding vow might trigger. Therefore, Yuji could only take the safest borderline approach. When Suguru Geto makes a move and wants to completely abandon you and kill you, contact me by phone in advance. I'll help you fight them off. My grandfather told me to save others, save as many as I can. Later, I realized that the feeling of saving people brings me happiness. So I just want to save more people. Even though you are a traitor to Jujutsu High, you still have a chance to turn over a new leaf. Trust me, Mekamaru. Mekamaru looked at the contents of the note and was silent for a while. Quote. He then picked up his pen. Tonight, a special grade curse will descend upon a high school. I can't reveal too many details. The ability of that cursed spirit is yin-yang reversal. Someone is targeting you. Early morning of July 5, 2018. Kanto, Ota City, Gunma Prefecture. A local high school. Informed personnel reported that several students saw a giant baby in the sky. The baby was enveloped in a large embryo, its scale seeming to cover the entire sky above the campus. Then a Sukuna finger was dropped into the campus. The Way of Heaven from the Tokyo and Kyoto schools immediately rushed to the rescue. Nearby Jujutsu sorcerers also headed to the campus to combat the curse. Fortunately, the evacuation was timely, so there were few casualties. However, the 3 Grade 2 sorcerers who went to execute the mission were all hit by a special innate technique when found by the Way of Heaven, resulting in them falling into a coma. The Jujutsu Higher UPS defined this incident as a disaster caused by a special grade vengeful cursed spirit. To deal with this emergency, Jujutsu High dispatched 4 Jujutsu sorcerers to this high school. They included Grade 1 Sorcerer, Yuji Itadori, Grade 1 Sorcerer, Kento Nanami, Grade 2 Sorcerer, Megumi Fushiguro, Grade 3 Sorcerer, Junpei Yoshino. Quote. Based on Mekamaru's hint, Yuji guessed that this was an action deliberately taken by Kenjaku to target him. But the initiative was always in the opponent's hands. Casualties had occurred at the school, so he had to come to save people and prevent the scale of the curse from expanding. He had to follow the opponent's rhythm. Because Sukuna's finger would attract curses to devour it, by the time the 4 arrived, the campus had already been completely taken over by curses. Moreover, Yuji sensed his eldest brother, who possessed the same innate technique, in this school. Death Painting Womb, Choso's aura, less than greater than 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 less than greater than. Read advanced chapters on Patreon, com. Kaizo 247. To be continued.